Welcome to The Old World Lives, a Warhammer Fantasy Battles podcast. You can find us on Facebook at The Old World Lives, on Instagram at The Old World Lives, and you can reach us by email at theoldworldlives@gmail.com. And now, on to the episode. Hello and welcome to episode 41 of The Old World Lives, a Warhammer podcast. And tonight with me, I actually have more than one, and that's a miracle, it seems. But let's start off with the usual one, Niklas.
Hello, I'm always here with Chris.
He's always here.
This time, hopefully, I will talk more about fantasy and less about other shit.
And with me tonight, we also have Krell.
Mosh, Krell this. It feels like it's been a while. I tried to get a word in edgewise last time, but Niklas was just going on about Vestroians, and I do love Vestroians. They're amazing sculpts.
Yeah, and we've actually picked up one more. I'm not sure really from where, but it was something that Niklas had brought home. So let's everyone welcome back Mårten.
Hey, he found something sad on the sidewalk and he brought me here. Yay! No, it's the secret plan. Our secret plan is that the Don't Lose Your Head will take over this podcast from within. Yes.
I think technically for it to be a secret plan, you don't tell everyone on air about it. I'm not really an expert though.
Shit.
Do you identify more as a lost waif or a foundling, Mårten? You get to choose.
Foundling?
I guess it's a cool choice. No wrong answers, man.
Oh, very nice to be here. I'm a big fan of the show, so the only problem is now I won't get... Well, when this episode drops, will I listen to it or not? I don't know. I've already heard it.
Like you will remember anything.
Yeah, that's true. Goldfish brain.
That's why we all heavily sedate ourselves before the show. So it's also like a pleasant surprise when you pick it up and you're like, hey, I talked about this.
Oh.
Yeah, I'm doing the bold choice tonight. I have orange gin with orange slices in and some tonic water. And I'm slightly allergic to orange.
Oh, living on the edge.
Yes, the suicide tonic.
Well, as long as I don't actually eat the orange, it's usually fine. But we'll see what happens.
Check in later to hear Chris eating the orange online.
Given that I actually did caught COVID after last time we recorded, I'm just glad I actually can taste anything.
The Old World Lives motto is, what's the worst that could happen, really?
It has always been that. So, Krell, tell us about what you've done in the hobby since last time we heard about it from you.
Well, I do like this new bold policy we have, talking about stuff that isn't strictly Warhammer Fantasy, but I've recently, as I told the guys before we started recording, instituted a new bold hobby policy. What you do is you buy everything, and I mean everything you conceivably find for an out-of-production army. In my case, Tomb Kings. You meticulously hide it from your wife, like the world's worst hoarder. Then you move house completely and you pack everything into boxes that's pretty nondescriptly labeled. In my case, just write TK1, TK2, TK3. And now, reasonably, you would assume that means all of your Tomb Kings shit are in these 3 boxes. I was going to say Fwain, but I think Frain. However, I have found, while sorting out some old gym clothes, that apparently I had hobby stuff in these boxes. In one notable Tupperware box, all of my flocking from old autumn leaves from Green Stuff World had just leaked out of the plastic container. So I put my hands into this small, I don't know why I'm showing you with my hands. Anyway, you put your fingers gently into the leaked content of a huge box of autumn leaves, and you put your fingers in there wait, some odd resistance. So I cup it in my hands and lift it up out of the box, and what is this? There's some sort of shiny metal between the leaves. So I brush it off. like some weird archaeologist from Times Hence. And I'm like, holy shit, this is the limited edition banner bearer for the Tomb Guard. Wow, I don't even remember buying this. It must have been super expensive. And but wait, there's something more in here. And I do it again. And wait, the cavalry one? I didn't even remember having this. And I kept going through my old sock drawer and my school catalogs from primary school. And I found 20 bow skeletons that were primed. I found 3 chariots, which I just finished up, decently shuffed with those. I found 20 light cavalry, which means they have bows, but not light armor and like a shield. I found 10 tomb guards. I found like 15 metal figures, like Lich priests, like the guy in the Covenant. I found Khalida, Finecast, and metal. And I remember getting the metal one, but I don't remember having the Finecast one. And like Ushabti, just a score of Ushabti in Finecast metal, still in like that old box. So basically, what have I been doing? Well, I've been seriously auditing my need to rein in my spendings on Tomb Kings, I guess. Yeah. Oh yeah, and I finished up 3 chariots, and I primed another 15 skeletons, and I'm working on this like light kit bash for my bowman, because I need a banner bearer for my 20-man new unit of bowmen. So I'm gonna take like the left hand, because some of those archer guys came with bespoken hands, and he's, how do I explain this? If you've ever fired a bow, he has this like 2 middle fingers slightly arched inwards, and the other 2 are like throwing up the world's worst, throwing the horns for an 80s metal glam band. And I'm gonna like open it up a bit with a glue gun. I'm gonna take one of those banners, shave off the hand that's sculpted on it, and I'm gonna make him basically hold the bow and the banner simultaneously. Because the hand that holds the bow, the right one, is usually the one that holds the banner as well. So I'm just gonna kit bash that for this month's challenge, depending on when we go to the episode, I guess. Beyond that, I've primed up Khalida. I've started working on the Casket of Souls. Feels really good, back doing some fancy. I recently started work on my old Carnifex, I guess, from 5th edition of Twin Link Devours. I started working on my 11-man squad of Red Scorpions. I've actually found some of my 2nd edition Ultramarine guys, the first ones I ever painted. I think I've told you guys about those. They look horrible. And I have them next to some Mark IV Betrayal Calf dudes and some like Mark V resin from Fort Royal I got half a decade ago. I finished Adeptus Sororitas army for this year, 1,200 points, play with my high school buddies to finally get them back in fantasy. I finished up my 3rd Necromunda gang. I did 3,100 points of Emperor's Children, Istvan 3 Survivors. I just put together my, what are it, like Cybor, the Minotaurs. Do you guys remember? There's this English company that does amazing monster sculpts. They usually have sales. Is that Cybor?
Or Mears.
Mears Miniatures. Thanks, Mårten. Exactly. I got like 10 of those. So I finally put them up, cleaned them off into my ultrasound cleaner. And I got my like custom-made Red Scorpion transfers from Japan of all places. And beyond that, I guess not a lot. Oh yeah,
all this in a week.
No, that's since I was last on, so year and a half. No, I don't know. And oh yeah, I just finished up my old epic Warhound Titan. So I guess like 15mm, the old like wolf-head one, striding forward on one leg.
Damn. Nice.
Yeah, for Tomb Kings, I'm gonna do these 20 skelly dudes. I'm gonna do the Casket of Souls, which I keep like just in my mind. I call it the Ark of the Covenant. I'm mucking around a bit with the. I think Chris was the one who originally tipped me off on it. The liquid gold from Vallejo. Oro Liquido.
Probably Niklas, actually.
Really?
Yeah.
Hey, Niklas.
Yes.
How are your paints? Dried out?
Yeah.
They will be.
I had 2 Cadian Flesh pots that I was going to use, and one of them was turning bad, so I bought a new one, and now the new one is also turned bad. I just had to buy a new fucking Stormhost Silver that was only half used because it dried up. I think it's more the Curse of Games Workshop, though, than Curse of Krell, to be honest.
No, it's a Curse of Krell. I cast like, what is it? I 6 dice it. What is it the Australians say? Yeah, 6 dice, mate. I throw 6 dice on the Winds of the Desert, and it just randomly vaporizes your paints.
What was it called? Curse of Ages?
Yes, the Curse of I final transmutated your paints, Niklas. You're like, thanks for 15 pounds of gold, you big nerd. Beyond that, I don't know. I've been mucking around with oils a bunch. Finally broke down and got some oil paints, which, I'm super grateful for all the tips I got over the years. I wish I listened to them. Oh yeah, and I built another 20 Skaven and the 3 Skaven Ogres I've got here, and a bunch of Battletech stuff. I really love Battletech, but I think that's in the periphery, so we'll talk about that maybe never. That's what I've been doing lately.
I thought I'd been productive.
Well, I mean, probably, yeah. In comparison, you did an entire army for fantasy. That has come for something. It's actually on the subject. It's like everyone's competing in the Wimbledon, and I'm coming in with my successful golf career. It's fun, but it's not really relevant, is it?
Well,
Also, I got the golf style.
Yeah, I think it's awesome. I mean, but were you thinking like, I'm done with my Tomb Kings, and then you found all these extra things, or did you have other things to finish?
Well, fun story. I was looking for extra bits for my Red Scorpion army because we're gonna start up like a small Badab thing.
Oh,
And
awesome.
I was cleaning up. I actually found these two. They're like the battle cruisers from Battlefleet Gothic, the Chaos one. I think the spoiler class. I just put them away, and I found some extra stuff, and I've got my Vrax and militia stuff, and I started cleaning up, and then I found Tomb Kings, which it was some surprise. I knew about like 3 of the Shabdi, and I've got those like Snake Rider dudes. But I'm like, hey, I got my 1,200 points of Tomb Kings all finished up. I don't need any more. And then I found all of this, and I'm like, well, the shards are like half done. Ostensibly, what are we talking? Like a couple of hours? I could finish that up. Then I found like the cavalrymen. I'm like, yeah, okay, that's not too bad. Then we have all these fucking skeletons. I found 2.5 bags, which has to be like 750 grams, maybe a pound of just bits, legs, heads, torsos, Tomb King stuff. I think I might be able to build another 30 skeletons.
Nice.
Well, you always need more skeletons, right?
Yeah. A surprise to be sure, but a welcome one.
That's the nice thing with Tomb Kings, though. That you don't need to have like loads of shit that you can spawn out, because you can only like raise skeletons from existing units, right?
Yep. Not like the Vampire Counts one. I don't know if anyone who listens to this remember, but like way back in episode 12, when I was heavily inebriated, Niklas asked me if the differentiation between the Invocation of the Undead between the Tomb Kings and Vampire Counts is basically that the Vampire Counts pull people unwillingly back from the afterlife, and the Tomb Kings willingly go into service beyond for their undead masters. And I think my answer was like, yeah. Turns out that's exactly what it is. The Tomb Kings can't just raise people willy-nilly. You have to like willingly enter into eternal servitude for your master. So no, you're right. Also, in 6th edition, one of my troop choices is literally 4 swarms. Just 4 tomb swarms. It's like 50 points.
Speaking of Krell, while we have you, the new campaign for the podcast, what are you going to do for that?
Tomb Kings!
Fair enough.
And I think the absolute worst thing on my unrelenting mirth on that subject is that now you guys have to find some super weird ass reason as to why the Tomb Kings are hoofed into the Empire. You're just like, hey, Border Princess, what up? Which one of you assholes stole our enchanted chalice? And you have like Mårten with Dogs of War in the background being like, no, nothing about a chalice.
There's still 2 tombs from the Tomb King's Empire in the Border Princess. So,
haha, yes, which I knew all along. I just want to check your knowledge. Well spotted, Chris. I did not know that. It was also like back in the day when you fluffy games like, yes, the Bretonnia are fighting the High Elves, the Wood Elves, and the Emperor of Man. Yes. Also, here are the South American lizard people, as well as the North African Tomb Kings, as well as the Romanian vampires for no apparent reason.
Yeah. Small world, isn't it?
Yeah, people are like, yeah, it's based on England. I'm like, is it though? Is it really?
There's quite a small part of the old world that's based on England, and it's not really part of the old world.
And nowadays, it's just like the vortex of chaos, right? Sorry, vortex of referendum.
Yeah, something like that. Speaking of Mårten, you were on in April last year for the Dogs of War special. Have you been doing anything fun for your hobby?
Combat.
Yeah. I mean, I've made another army since then. I made a Chaos Warriors of Chaos Nurgle army. It's more of a united Nurgle army because I have Warriors of Chaos, I have some Beastmen, and I have some Demons. So I just did the old thing like, I don't care about why split them into different army books when you can have them all together?
Because 8th edition sucks.
Well, it really does. Nobody said, hey, you know what Beastmen need? A separate book. And also, remove all the cool shit.
Wasn't it in 6th edition that they did the split, though?
No.
Yeah, but the 6th edition Herds of Chaos is still, like, entertaining to play and fairly functional. Later on, they just removed all the monsters for some reason. But I like your approach.
They have the lovely rules at the beginning of the army list. That just if you have a beast general, your beasts are core. If you have a Chaos Warrior general, your warriors are core. So
yeah. Well, that's a very good idea.
If Jimmy was here, he'd be yelling that at you.
I think
he probably is.
I think they brought rules back for uniting them with the end times, but I don't know. I'm just playing with people who have the same mindset, and we don't care. We just play with whatever is fun. That's how we. But I guess the theme is gonna be a bit about surrounding Tamarkan. So I'm gonna paint Tamarkan model and maybe someday we could recreate that cool campaign. And I know we've been talking about making an episode about that. So maybe I'll save some of the Nurgle talk to then.
Yep. Sounds like a good idea.
Yeah, but then so fast forward, now we're here, and now it's a new year, new army, and I was like, I had thought about making Tomb Kings, which is maybe I will think about it again after this episode. We'll see.
Krell has already bought all of the available ones in Sweden.
That's true.
Interesting proposal, Mr. Morten. Too bad I sit on the tactical supply of Tomb King skeletons for miles around.
Maybe I can get some for triple the price or something. I don't know. But then I had this crazy idea about making Bretonnian orcs. So then that's what I'm doing at the moment. I just thought, some orcs who live in Massif Orcal in Bretonnia, and they've been enviously looking at the knights, and they think that they should also be able to do what they do, but better. So they took some boars that they found, they just put some cloth on them, put on some armor, tried to look like knights, and then they charged into glorious combat. So we'll see. I have a sort of an idea of what to do with it, but I don't want to make a really big army at the moment. Just for fun with conversion and painting, because I thought, Bretonnia seems so fun. You can paint every knight in a different color scheme. So then I just started to do it with orcs. So we'll see. It's gonna have a nice.
Je suis non chevalier. Mon gok, je suis un orc, mossé. No, je suis un chevalier. If you actually speak French or English, I'm sorry about that.
I'm gonna make a lovely orc damsel, and she I don't know, it's beautiful. But I thought, what will she ride on? Because they have their unicorns. So I found this normal pig, not a wild boar, but a pig, which in their eyes must be this beautiful magical creature. Like, he ain't got much hair on it, does it? It's pink and nice, a beautiful creature. And then so I'm gonna, maybe they've stuck on a little horn there to make it look like a unicorn or something. We'll see. Tons of fun ideas, but I guess I'll have to get it approved by Jimmy. He's the green screen master on this show, right?
Wasn't there, like, for Blood Bowl, didn't they make like an orc cheerleader?
Yep.
If you can track that down, that'd probably be a pretty decent base to use.
Yeah. Try to fit that in somewhere. Yeah. And then I
assume
maybe
time and money is not an option. Is not a problem at all.
Not a problem at all. No.
Casually buy it on eBay.
Easy peasy. And I've been thinking about getting some night goblins and using them as peasants, because they would look like the equivalent, right? Like, we don't care.
Goblins. That's amazing, Mårten.
Oh, they're night. I didn't even think of that pun. Maybe you can help me with some other things. I need some orcified names of, like, Arthur and his knights for the riders. So I don't know.
Porksival.
There's in the Gnoblar set. There's a Gnoblar riding another Gnoblar as his steed. So that could work to put it into Goblin. Probably work it into a Goblin unit.
Yeah,
you got Sir Pransalot.
Yeah, I thought about Lance a Grot.
Oh shit, even better, man.
And maybe Arthur could be Warthur or something like that.
Yeah, that's really good.
But keep the good ideas coming. I will need them. And other than that, I'm also currently painting a Manticore from said Mears Miniatures. But it's a great model, and I don't really have a plan for it. It's not meant to be in any of the armies. I just thought, like, it would be fun to have some wild monsters to play some monster hunt mission or something like that, or just have a wild monster appear in the middle of the battle. So we'll see. Or maybe Lore of the Beasts, Lore of Beast, right? Transformation of Kadan, is it? Well, you don't know about these cool things.
Lore of Beast.
Maybe
There's in the 6th edition High Elf book, I'm looking at it right now.
Yeah.
There's it's like a quest game where you can hunt beasts, and there's a Manticore in there.
Nice, yeah.
Yeah, they got that instead of an alternate army list at the back of the book.
Way better, right?
I think that's all my hobby progress at the moment.
Oh, it seems like the War Orc cheerleading squad is no longer available at Forge World.
Oh, sad war.
Wah, wah.
It took me like 4 minutes just to get past the I'm a human check for to get into fourth world. That's starting to get ridiculous. Just you have to click 8 times on these which squares contain a boat.
Yeah. So, why? Why did they introduce that? It's crazy.
Yeah, and why it's only on the Fourth World website.
Maybe they've been
I know that Fourth World and Games Workshop brought that in because people went in and like they bought out all of the fucking Siege of Terror, sorry for swearing, all of the Siege of Terror books and like all the limited releases, and then Games Workshop scaled that back for only like when they have major releases.
Yeah, but it's always on Fourth World.
Yeah, I think Fourth World got it, but they never backed it down.
Yeah. And especially when you're already signed in. Sorry for that. When you're already signed in with the Warhammer Plus account.
Oh, yes. That's weird.
They're just signed in anyway. But no.
Are you truly human?
Obviously not. And you know that the only reason why that kind of captcha is on the site is because someone wants their machine to learn recognition of images and the stuff. So
you're helping Skynet basically every day.
Yeah,
you go to Fourth World.
It's not Fourth World, it's actually Binet.
Oh.
Then you have Adeptus Titanicus, Reaver Titan, Volkite Eradicators, and Volkite Destructors for the Warlord Titan. So you can have all Volkite Titans.
Terminator will be much scarier if it learns by the Fourth World weapons. That's horrifying.
Yeah.
Who's next? Hobby progress.
Yeah, Niklas, how did you manage to finish all of your Dark Elf stuff that you talked about last episode?
Yes. So I was working on some historians just to get some of those things ready, and then after that I was just gonna launch into finishing my not high elves, Dark Elves, the true leaders of both one.
So it's the same, isn't it?
That's one hell of a Freudian slip. That.
Yeah, I was thinking that.
Elves are elves, aren't they?
Sitting and reading the high elf book now. That's why.
Elves are elves, Niklas. Don't get bothered about it.
So I had to finish painting a Reaper Bowthrower and 5 Cold One Knights, and I did that in like 3 or 4 days. I think it's 4 days. And then I had some games yesterday, which was awesome. Manfred, Mårten's usual player back in Gothenburg, came up here, and then 2 other players, local players, and we played 1,000 point games. It was awesome. And last time we played 500 points, and my Dark Elves just got crushed every game. But this time I had my revenge and I crushed it. It was pretty great.
How many games did you play? I saw one against Manfred's Bretonnians and one against Demons of Slanesh or something.
Yeah. So we just played 2 games.
Yeah. Who had those Slanesh demons? They were really cool.
Yeah. It's Sebastian is a local player. He's got loads of armies. He's got like a massive dwarf army of all kinds of makes, and he's got beastmen as well, and this really cool Slanesh army.
Are you going to tell about the demon prince he had?
Yeah, he was using it as an exalted demon, I think it's called, the hero version.
But what was it made of?
It's the made from the Morn Ghoul.
Yeah.
It was like the Morn Ghoul, like coming out of a pillar kind of, or standing over it.
It was really cool.
He had like the sword from the not the Defiler, the demon version of the Defiler. Whatever it's called.
Soul Grinder?
Yeah. So like that broken off sword. And he said like in the future it's gonna use it with this thing that, like, I don't know, it's got this kind of demonic power that you gain wounds when you inflict wounds, because it looks like it's not fully summoned, like, because the Morgul doesn't have like a lower body and it's missing an arm or something. So it's like feeding on its enemies to grow.
Yeah, that looks scary.
Like an item called the Soul Stealer Sword, which lets you do that.
Yeah, it might be that.
That's really cool.
Yeah, it's a great model, great paint job, and a great army in general.
I like the thing because he had also those mixed units, right? Where it's like a demonette unit, but then he had like one seeker in there or something.
Yeah, he used them as unit fillers. So when he came there, he was like, "Well, it's a shame you can't use seekers in this army." And I was like, "Actually, you can. It's in the Storm of Chaos book. Now they're also in the Chronicle 2004 book, and I actually brought both of those along. So
I really hope that you said, well, actually, and you put on some glasses to adjust. I think you'll find, sir.
Yeah. Well, so this 40k player was there, and he was complaining a bit about the fact that the game is like spread out, like you have to use 4 books or something. And then like we were mocking him for that, and then he was around for that, and I was like, well, at least it won't get like outdated next month.
The best part is when you have to track down a copy of the latest FAQ errata sheet for an army, and they're not in one of the chronicles.
One of the most charming things in my collection is my Dark Elf book, the older version that I had to fucking use a label maker to like put in all the updates, all the updated points. And
mine got the updates. I printed the errata, cut them out with a scissor, and then taped them into my book.
Yeah, that's a classic. It's so good.
That's the proper thing to do. That's only because the Dark Elf book got a really massive overhaul after a while.
Yeah, didn't they change like everything, like the points and the rules?
They changed the warrior points. They changed, the executioner models are clad from head to toe in plate mail and chainmail had light armor in the original book.
How is the Cold War Knight Riders though that have like armor all over, like massive Gorgets and shit, and they have heavy armor, but then like the Empire greatswords that have just like a plate, a full plate.
Yeah.
Human ingenuity.
But on the other hand,
Quality.
the Cold War Knights got the scaly skin on the Cold War Riders.
Yeah.
That just raises further questions.
I think it's one of those don't ask kind of deals.
Maybe the
I think it's
Dark
like where you
Elf one is made
wave
of
your fingers
tin.
in the air and just say magic.
Yep.
Yeah.
Wizard did it.
A wizard did it. Yeah, I
Did they
get it,
ever-
but what's the context? A wizard did it with magic.
Did they ever release erratas like on stickers so that they were intended to just
No.
easily be put into the book? That would be kind of nice.
Sometimes they release them in a White Dwarf. They still do release an update in a White Dwarf, and when the White Dwarf is no longer available, you have to wait until the consolidated, like a chapter approved or similarly.
Yeah, you have those the Dark Elf updates in my Chronicle books that have like those lines made to cut out, so you could.
Oh, but that's nice. Yeah.
Well, they were also available as a download on the Games Workshop website once upon a time, but that was nigh on 20 years ago.
I remember those downloads because they actually put a lot of effort into the graphic formatting of it. Because they used to be like one from Heinrich Kemmler and Krell, and you only got in White Dwarf, but you could download it for like a weekend or something from a webpage, or maybe longer. I don't remember. And it even had like a nice, like at the end of the page, it had like a nice little rosary of skulls. It had no function whatsoever, but just looked neat, you know.
Yeah,
Like some poor timid intern had to sit around and just, hey, we want you to make this object graphically appealing, and just like, oh, okay, guys, can I proofread the High Elf book after that?
They used to have a great support of hobby stuff.
Yeah.
Well, they had, download these templates to make a village or a wall, or how to build this kind of terrain, or how to build that kind of terrain, or how to play this kind of scenario, or scenario rules, army rules, special characters. So much support, and then it just, we're not going to have any downloads anymore. We're not going to have a forum anymore.
All those memories lost like teardrops in the rain.
To be fair, the forum did kind of turn into a cesspool after a while, but that's just forums.
It went out to the bang and not a whimper, and you got to respect that. But then again, I did rage sell all of my vampires at one point due to Age of Sigmar, so I don't think you should listen to me about handling stuff healthily.
Yeah, I think that is a good idea, just not listening to you.
You're just jealous, because now you're going to get questions about, wait, are there really like 2 Kristoffers? This is too confusing for me as a listener. So the one who isn't an asshole to all our listeners, that's the one guy who comes on repeatedly and does stuff.
Yeah, no matter that we do sound entirely different when we talk.
Yeah, that might be a second clue, but maybe we have some very drunk listeners on occasion.
I love that when visiting like Scandus, and people just, wait, you're the guy that's in the podcast?
I still get that. Like, wait, which Kristoffer are you? And I'm like, wait, you can't hear the difference.
You can't hear the difference after the initial 60 episodes with another Kristoffer.
You can't see the difference because we do look fairly different as well.
Yeah, you're a bit taller.
Yeah, a bit. And you have glasses still, right?
Yeah.
I think it's all Niklas making voices. I think he's just very, very good at it.
I've said it before. The only time I've seen Niklas and Mårten in the same place, there's like a weird mirror between them, and like one of them had a wig on.
Yeah. Well, it was a paid actor.
Yeah. Do you or do you not confirm wearing a wig at every Lincoln I've ever seen you at?
I think I have. Yeah. Oh,
yeah,
or wasn't it when I was Ultramarines leader? I think I had Didn't I have one of those like
the Laurels one?
Yeah, the
like
Laurels.
Yeah, you did. Otherwise, you've always had like that awesome Farrah Fawcett wig on for when we play.
It's the only blonde one I got.
I like how it's the only blonde wig you got.
Yeah, I'm gonna leave it at
that. Researching seems hard.
Actually, it's the only blonde wig I have. So
I have so many questions about your life, and yet no questions whatsoever.
I'm
sorry, Niklas, I cut you off. Did you have more hobby progress stuff before you started like questioning Mårten's existence?
Well, I was talking about my games. It was fun to use loads of magic. It's like the first time I've ever used it in fantasy. Like,
didn't you have 2 wizards?
Yeah, 2 level 2s.
Yeah, that was your bit of revenge from just not having a level 2 in the first game due to points limits.
Yeah, because the Dark Elf mage was too expensive for like border patrol to upgrade to level 2. So I was just getting annihilated by like an Empire Fire Wizard. Now I had my revenge. And like when we were starting playing, the other guys were like, "Well, I didn't take a wizard. I didn't take one either. I mean, what's the point really?" And I was just sitting there, smirking. Oh, so good. I had 2 level 2s, and one of them had an extra power dice, and one of them had like a magic missile bound item. So I just had like free reign, dark magic.
You're like, I didn't take a wizard either, guys. I took 2.
So yeah, maybe I've changed the meta in my group now. Maybe they will take wizards next time.
Yeah.
And that's when you take the magic item that negates magic, right?
Yeah.
Exactly. Got to be one step ahead.
That's what I have in my dwarves.
Yeah, that is. I was thinking if you're still playing the Dark Elves, because they have a magic item that negates or makes other medias miscast.
Yeah,
no, next time Niklas is just gonna take like 5 assassins.
You just take an assassin with the mask that causes terror.
Oh yeah. Mm.
Did you make plans for next time, or how many points will you do next? And
after seeing 2 wizards, they were like, "No, Niklas, it's cool. We get back to you. We'll tell you when we want to play."
Yeah, the guys were really excited, and so there are only 4 of us now, but there's like at least 10 in the group, and the other guys couldn't make it, but they were really excited from seeing all the pictures. So
they couldn't make it after they heard that you had 2 sorcerers and 1,000 points.
It's strange because we saw a couple of them like turn in the door, but it must have been someone else, I guess.
So yeah, hopefully we'll play it soon again. Probably it's just gonna be 1,000 points again. It's a nice level, like 500 points is nice. It's nice to get started like that, and you're able to have games. But 1,000 points, like it feels like you're actually playing the game and it works as it should. So
more balanced.
Yeah, and I think it's a good idea to like get the hang of the rules if you haven't played 6th edition before. Because I tried to introduce a dude to play who played Bretonia for 2,000 points, and it got super hard for him to like keep track of stuff. He had a 2,000 point army, and he didn't have a single magic item for Bretonia.
It's doable. It's not a good idea, but it's doable.
Yeah, but his fluff, I've told you about him before, I think. You don't have to like remember it. But his fluff was basically had a bunch of disheveled peasants and like disenfranchised knights. So for him it worked, but it was like kind of rough. Because I had like my blood dragons.
Did he remember to take the nightly wows and stuff?
Yeah, he did. And I reminded him that like his Pegasus riders had magic weapons by default.
Yeah, so long as it's a friendly game, it's a chance to learn. You don't have to crush him just because you make a mistake, so to speak.
Well, I mean, I am an asshole on air, so I like have to keep that up in real world as well. So like when I won, I grabbed an American football and spiked it in the floor and like, yes, what you get when you mess with the warrior, Carla. But
so that's why you only brought banshees and spirit hosts.
Could you imagine? Yeah, and like level 3 Necrarchs, and of course Melchior on a zombie dragon. Casual game.
Yeah.
Just gotta say though, before it's getting cut off again by Kral, that I really like playing Dark Elves. They're a ton of fun. Like they're really mobile. They have a bit of everything. Because like dwarves and Kislev are very much like they do their thing really good. But Dark Elves are really cool because they can have just a mix of everything. Has some light cav, has some really heavy cav, some infantry, loads of magic, some shooting. So ton of fun. So I'm really looking forward to playing more of them.
I got a question about playing Dark Elves, Niklas.
Mm-hmm.
Do you feel genuinely ashamed for betraying your genuine Davi heritage, or is it more like you don't even think about how grossly you betrayed the entire Davi race? Do you grudge yourself now?
The enemy of my enemy is my friend.
Well played.
Well, I've actually gotten some hobby done as well. Well, because that's where we're at in the episode.
So what is it?
Do tell.
Sorry, I just got a bit of a cough there. First of all, I want to say thank you to a dear friend of mine, Daniel, who bought me the the Black Library Humble Bundle with all of the new books that was released last week. When he is, so you're having COVID. Here, have a bunch of books to read.
Oh, nice.
You guys
And then you're
friends.
in bed like, I don't know if I can even read.
Yeah, it was. It turned out that I couldn't because I was too tired, sleeping like 15 hours a day. But still appreciate it, and it's a lovely set. And it even got a Warhammer book.
Oh, they still do that?
Yeah, The Demon's Curse, A Tale of Malice Darkblade.
Oh.
Yeah, but it's a nice mix of 40k, some Age of Sigmar, some heresy books as well. And one of the best books that have been released from Black Library ever, which is Dead Men Walking.
Oh, is that the Necrons versus Death Corps?
Yeah, and they can't really tell which one is more inhumane.
Yeah, that's awesome.
It's a brilliant book.
Who wrote that one?
Steve Lyons, I think.
Okay. Mm-hmm. But so any hobby done in between the sleeping and coughing?
I have, as I mentioned in the last episode, I based my models, my Black Knights. They've been based. And one has almost been finished painted as well, because it was almost one finished. And they're a bit purpley, but we'll see what happens when they've actually finished.
It's a very nice purple.
Listening, Chris almost died from COVID and still painted models.
What's your excuse?
Yeah, so well, what was more, why was that my incentive to actually paint?
I'm dying. Must leave behind legacy.
Must finish painting anything.
And they're really good conversions as well. Did you say that? You used the...
Yeah, we talked about that in the last one. It's I did the Black Knights from that's currently available from Games Workshop. They're in the dual kit with what they call the Hex
Wraiths.
Yeah, but I'm using the entire Black Knight's bodies and torsos. Then I use heads and arms from the Death Rattle skeleton kits.
You could call them Ghost Riders, and I wouldn't be mad.
Yeah, but these won't be Ghost Riders. These will be Black Knights.
No, you're a Black Knights. I just mean like the dual kit.
Yeah, I have no idea what the other ones are called. I bought them for a project and then shelved them for a year. And then
3D print some Nicolas Cage heads. Put them on.
Like the laughing heads.
Maybe not. But I've actually had some progress. These will be finished quite soon, and I hope they'll look good when they're finished. We'll see.
Is it a unit of 5 or more?
Yeah, it's a unit of 5 to start off with. I'm probably going to make it a larger unit later on when I've got some more models. But for a 1,000 point starter list, it should be okay, I think.
Nice.
For sure. And any new stuff we need to talk about? I don't think they've released anything fantasy since last. Or Kabanda. Does anyone want to use Kabanda as some demon of chaos, demon of corn? It's a nice demon.
Yeah, you can see that Sanguinius actually managed to break his back, given how twisted one of his wings are.
No? Oh, yeah, that's true. But isn't it just the angle of the picture? I don't know.
It probably is, but from the picture they've chosen to show, it looks like the wing is upside down.
Yeah, very odd. I also told Niklas on our latest show that I think it's a shame that he wasn't posed in a way that he's fighting Sanguinius. But then Niklas pointed out, oh, you want him to be upside down falling? That's exactly what I want.
Just doing like backstrokes through the air.
Yeah, it's so cool. Just shove one of those translucent or transparent, I should say, sticks in his butt, like a flying base. Right? Well, problem solved.
Maybe one of those big ones, the one with the cross thing for flyers.
Yeah. Yep.
Witch Hunter by C.L. Werner will be available during the Black Library celebration.
Oh,
that's news.
Yeah, I think I saw they had some made to order, but I think that was only Lord of the Rings things.
Yeah, well, this one was from the Black Library celebration. That's this month, the end of the month, something like that.
So sorry, guys. I have to head off. My kid just woke up from all my babbling.
Fair enough.
You can probably hear in the background, pick him up rare models saying vad idea.
But you'll be back later for the Tomb King special.
I will. Det där är en Diaz Dimonette. Tack, Melly. Okay, I have to go. She got the Diaz stuff.
Oh shit! Run!
I ain't got therapist money, guys. Bye.
So yeah, we're getting closer to the Total War release as well.
Yep, it's as we record, it's 11 days until release.
I do love the previews that I've seen so far of people who got early access and stuff. Really nice. But what was that tweet thing that about Kislev? Is that something you want to talk about, Niklas?
Oh, god damn it! So yeah.
Just one more thing that's news before they are going to release a new jetty for Blood Bowl that you could use as an armored jetty for whatever you want to use an armored jetty for.
I didn't see that yet. Okay.
Yeah, there was someone that got a mispack and posted, "Wait, what's this?" And they just posted the contents because they would order something else, but got a jetty instead.
What's up with those? How can they do these mistakes? I don't know.
They're probably quote unquote mistakes.
Yeah.
It's free marketing, pretty much.
That is true.
But yeah, so Niklas, how about that little sleeping bear?
Yeah, let me rant. So they released a new legendary lord for Kislev, which is Boris Ursun, which is in the book. It was in the book, the Kislev pamphlet from 6th edition, and he is the classic model that everyone knows, Boris and a bear. Mm-hmm. And he's
who is he? Who is he to the Tsarina?
He's her dad. So in the book, he's set in a different time period. It's before she grows up.
Yeah,
that's when he was
dead in the current timeline in 6th edition.
That's when he was Tsar, and then he died fighting some orcs when she was little, and then she grew up and became the Tsarina. So, when she is the Tsarina, which is in the game now, in the new Total War, he's already dead. And then they're saying, oh, but he wasn't really dead. He was just hibernating like a bear.
Oh.
And then, he comes back or something.
Makes sense.
But even, if that happened, if he was, mortally wounded by an orc and then just crept into, a cave with his bear and just, decided to sleep and become magically healed by Kislev or something.
Mm-hmm.
Even if that happened, which is ridiculous, then when he came out, wouldn't he reclaim the kingdom that is his? Because he's the Tsar. He never becomes the Tsardom.
But won't he represent a separate faction then from Katarina? So you have some sort of civil war thing, maybe.
But
I don't know. It is believed that he vanished while fighting the forces of chaos, but Creative Assembly recently announced on Twitter that he has been freed from hibernation and that he was coming to Warhammer 3 as a new legendary lord. This means that, at the time of writing, Kislev is the only faction with 3 legendary lords at launch. Boris isn't available straight away, however. You need to unlock him first in order to play his campaign.
Oh, that's new. They haven't had that in the game, right? So you have to fight or win some campaign to unlock him, basically, or something.
Yeah, it's weird.
Do you want to know how you unlock him?
Yeah.
To unlock Tsar Boris Bok as a playable legendary lord, you first need to play a campaign as either Tsarina Katarina or Konstantin.
Okay. I mean, that's a bit of a weird. Well, I mean,
while playing as either of these Kislev characters, you need to capture and hold Prague, Kislev, and Erengrad. Once you've held these settlements for at least 10 turns, you get a quest that let you release Boris Ursus.
Oh, so you can play with him in that campaign?
No, you have to once you've completed the quest, you unlock him as a playable legendary lord. You don't need to finish the campaign you're playing, although you can choose whether to have Boris become a friendly NPC faction or join your faction as an additional legendary lord that you control.
Okay, but that's fun. Then you at least get to use him, because otherwise it's like, oh yeah, I just finished this Kislev campaign, and now I can play another Kislev campaign with this guy. I'd rather just be able to choose him from the start.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's strange, but it's also like I understand why they want to include him, because he is like an iconic Kislev model, like one of.
Yeah, would you rather that they made up 2 new legendary lords?
I mean, they already have the patriarchy and everything, but I don't know. It's kind of on Games Workshop from the start with this guy. Like, why did they even have 2 special characters in the book with only like 5 units? And have them like set in different timelines? Why couldn't they make like Boris general of the army instead of Boris dad to the Tsarina but now dead? Like it doesn't make any sense.
No, it is a bit weird.
Yeah. Well,
but hey, you can get more. You can have him riding his bear with more bear cav and stuff. You're gonna have the time of your life.
Yeah. Well, still excited, but got a bit upset when they announced that. So, yeah,
but you have already pre-ordered the game, right?
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah. And Chris, will you play it also? Will you get it?
Yeah, we had it installed for like 3 months.
Oh, so you can do that already?
Yeah, if you have the Xbox Game Pass. That's how I got it, so I don't get the Ogre Kingdoms.
Okay.
But I'm figuring maybe just to pick it all up on the Steam summer sale next year.
Oh yeah, probably. It's gonna be interesting to see. I like how the map, how it's sort of centered around the pole in a way. It's all twisted and not in the way we're used to seeing it. But I wonder how they will incorporate them all into some sort of big Mortal Empires map. It'll be cool to see.
Yeah. Yeah, I really hope they just put the whole world on there. I don't care if it's gonna be balanced, because also like in Total War 2 with the Mortal Empires thing, you don't get like the south of Lustria in that.
Yeah, it is a bit cropped. You're right.
Yeah, but like they have
don't get all of the Southlands.
Yeah, exactly. But you have all those parts in the Vortex campaign, so they could just like put everything into one campaign.
I guess it takes up too much space, computer space or something.
Yeah, well, fucking let people that have fast computers try that out.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah, and maybe bring back the old don't show everything that happens button that you could put in the settings in from the old Total War games.
Oh. Yeah. Speed up the enter.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, you don't have to like go through what every faction does if you can't see what they're doing anyway.
True.
Yeah, they used to that used to be in the Total War that pretty much expanded as when you discovered other factions.
Yeah. Yep. It used to be like that.
Well, I think the Chaos Undivided is really cool at the moment, and the way you can customize your demon prints and stuff, and that you can make sort of a mix, because I don't know. I mean, it just means you have more units to choose from than going for just one of the armies of Chaos, right? One of the gods.
Yeah, you can make an entirely undivided list for the demons, which is quite nice.
Yeah, you get bonuses for having like mono armies?
Surely there has to be, otherwise it would be a bit weird. And I guess also that each of the gods will get more units in the future, right? I mean, we don't have all the mortals, I guess, yet. There could be more beastmen and everything. I think most of the demon units are in there already.
Yeah. It would be really cool to have like one army of Nurgle and one army of Slaanesh moving around the map.
Yeah. But they seem to have a lot of all these different special abilities, right? Where Nurgle, they send your plagues around and you get bonuses, and everyone else gets negative effects. And then you have Slaanesh, where you can sort of bribe the next army to buy their units or seduce them.
Oh, nice.
So I guess if you get a really good economy and you have a lot of money, you can win every battle by just buying the best units from the enemy. It's I don't know. I guess a good way to try to solve how do you represent all these weird chaos factions in a good way. So I don't know. Will be nice to see anyway. But I guess that would be a way to get more legendary lords in for those factions, right? Because you don't have any of the mortal guys, right? Like I don't know how mortal they are or how much of a demon they are, but you know what I mean. Like Valkia, or what's her name?
Yeah, Valkia the Bloody.
Yeah.
Sigvald,
yeah. The Changeling, what's his name? I guess there are quite a lot of special characters that they can throw in as legendary lords in the future. But...
yeah, there's probably a few per Chaos God, actually.
Yeah, but it's looking nice. So, should we go to a break and then come back with...
Yeah, I was actually thinking along the same lines, because we have a... I'm surprised that we didn't mention it at the beginning of the episode, but this is the intro of our Tomb King special, and after the break we'll have our Tomb King special. Woohoo!
What a great teaser. Hopefully it's in the in the name of the episode. So
I'm just gonna call it Hobby Chat February 2022.
I know this is just an Easter egg for whoever had the energy to stay along. Like, oh.
Yeah, but as said, there will be a break, and we'll see you in the next part of the episode.
As they say when you walk in quicksand, stick around.
Oi, you there. You need something clubbed? Proper smash and stuck full of crossbow bolts in it. For the low price of a tooth per head, we'll get the job done, and that's a guarantee.
And welcome back to the second part of the episode with our little Tomb King special. Woohoo!
Ooh.
Apparently that's all the woohoo we're getting for this, but yeah.
I hate sand.
Yeah.
It's coarse and rough, and it gets everywhere. I wish I was more like you, Chris.
Liking sand, or what are you talking about?
Princess among the stars. I think that's as far as that analogy goes. Yes, today we're covering the Tomb Kings.
I'm going to go over here and die of sadness.
Where every story has a grain of truth in it. You can write home to mommy about it, and you don't have to be sand about it anymore. We're here to tell you the entire unadulterated story.
Yeah,
so today we're covering Tomb Kings. I was a bit unsure how to do this because I haven't really led one of these episodes for a while, and I say that hesitantly. So basically, I've got all the referential material in one hand, and just like when you used to write your thesis for university, I was about to state what materials I've produced. I used the following books, but to get the entire stories about the origins of Khemri, as well as the entirety of the Tomb King's lineage, I went back to ye old favorite Warhammer Armies Undead, which that's 4th edition, right, Chris? Or is it 5th? Has to be 4th.
Yeah, I think it is.
Then 6th edition Tomb Kings and 8th edition Tomb Kings, the origins of Nikahara.
I'm gonna do this as a bit for our Swedish listeners, and if you want to follow along, and när du hör denna signal så vet att det är dags att vända blad.
Kling! Piff och Puff vände sig, mattan rörde sig. Oscar insåg.
Yeah,
so basically, I don't know if we have people still listen, but since the Vampire Count episode, which we recorded like 2.5 years ago, I once referred to the 4th edition Undead book as The Amazing Adventures of Nagash and Some Other People. And I still stand by that assertion. But if you ever want to find out what Nagash did and why he was such a tremendous asshole to anyone who isn't undead, which again, why aren't you undead? It's just the peak way of living. So the origin of the Tomb Kings is pretty self-succinct and sufficient. Basically, and I'm paraphrasing it pretty heavily, but there was a bunch of different minor kings and nobles in which counts as Warhammer world of, I guess, Maghreb rather than Mashriq, which is North Africa as well as like the interior of the continent. Basically fantasy Bronze Age Egypt, where people fought for dominance and minor kingdoms rose and falls like mighty mountains of sand, only to return once again to the hailness of desert. Then one day came the king among kings, the lord of lessers. He who should rule the dunes from here until further. Cetra, the imperishable. Cetra, he who shall be named. Cetra, ruler of all. Cetra was, fun fact, the first priest king, meaning that, and again, this goes back to Pesedjet, which is the real-life Egypt equivalentology. It means that he was anointed by the priesthood while also wearing the crown of the rulers. This is something that actually happened in real life, but they just mentioned in passing in Tomb Kings. I thought that was kind of neat. Cetra united the entirety of what would later be the Tomb King area, which is the larger area which Cetra comes from, Khemri, as well as all of the other outlying areas. So I'm not really good at Bronze Age historical allegories, or I guess Mashrik in general, which is a shame. I could probably tell you a lot more about like Sumerian or Urenkidu stuff. Anyway, being sort of vague proto-Alexander, like a lot of GW early design choices, he wept because he realized that he could not unite the world under his banner because he didn't have enough time. He did, however, sponsor the priesthood, which would later become the Leech Priests. And the Leech Priests acquired eldritch sorcery, foul and fair, from all over the world, which is as far as they touch in that. You could assume somewhat that they've tamed the wind of... What's the wind of death? Is it Shish? No, Chris?
I think so.
Shaish.
Shaish, thanks. As well as the wind of heaven, which is Mårten.
Heavens? Good
Yeah.
heavens. Ashik? Asir? No.
I don't know. Like, this is not like me testing you guys. This is me not having any idea.
Isn't it Asir? Because they're basically the realms
Asir,
of realms of.
Just Google it.
Sigmar.
Yeah. Just Google that shit. So young, Mårten, so young. So anyway, they acquired the knowledge and lore from multiple civilizations. And this is like thousands of years before the Age of Sigmar. So again, you have to think of it like this is the Bronze Age civilizations, the major free ones, while the rest of the world is more or less like pillaging and fighting and small fiefdoms and chieftains. You wouldn't be entirely remiss.
And stuff like that.
Yeah, just think of it like the TV series Vikings, but 250 years before that, technology-wise. No ocean-going vessels. However, in Khemri, Cetra lies to die. But the Lich Priests have, for years, if not decades, prolonged their unnatural state of being in their lives. They have now lived for centuries, and they swear to the dying king that one day he shall return, anointed, rebuilt, gilded in form, being, and a celestial temperament, suited his new divine body. He will rise again, and he will rule Khemri, as is his lot, for he's the king among kings. So Cetra is the first tomb king to be entombed in a giant pyramid. So basically, you know the story after this, right? The empire falls in on itself. It doesn't last. We never find out if we used the Carolingian model, just strict hair policy. But a bunch of tomb kings rise and fall in the meanwhile, and they all get their own snazzy pyramid. Fun fact, as an historical aside, there aren't that many pyramids in a wall. I mean, we all tend to think that like, oh, we had all these super successful pharaohs and they all had huge fuck-off pyramids, which is not really true. You have like the pyramids of Giza, which is an outlier, but most of them were fairly smaller. So anyway, each and every man who would become a tomb king rises and falls, dies and is buried. And the Lich priests march on. They build on their forbidden lore, and they are not capable of living, if you could call it living, for centuries in the same body, all the while ostensibly supporting the monarchy and finding a way to restore Cetra to the throne. Then, roughly 2,000 years after the death of Cetra, arose a magnificent king, the name of and his unmentionable high priest brother known as Nagash. Yes, that Nagash. Nagash murders the shit out of his brother, and blood-soaked hands still dripping sits on the throne. Nobody really calls him on it, and that's literally what it says. Men too afraid to call his terrible treachery to truth. Nagash, looking at the Lich Priest model, goes like, yeah, that, but better, and starts experimenting with ways foul and hidden. This is where we divert a bit, because in the 4th edition Undead book, again, The Powerful Adventures of Nagash and Company, it turns out that Nagash just offhandedly created the first vampires out of nowhere. Whereas in the Tomb King's book, it's pretty clearly stated that the nation of Lamia created the first one with forbidden lore mixed with, of course, the blood sacrifice of the ancients. And it's kind of funny because in one of the older books, they offhandedly mentioned that the reason that Lamia could ever master it is because they had the Druchi assistance in putting together the connotated elixir of light. And now we have to jump over to like the Vampire Account 6th edition to get the story of the Lamian vampires, the initial priesthood of vampirism, but we're not going to do that. Anyway, In The Undead in Tomb King's 6th edition book. Am I speeding through this too fast, by the way, guys?
No, I like it. It's a good pace.
Cool. It's unusual for me trying to be fairly succinct, so I have no idea what I'm doing. The vampires rise up. The people get freaked out because shit be freaky, bro. Nobody really likes them. There's a huge rebellion, and the vampires defeated, and they flee to Nagash's side. Nagash makes each and every one of these defeated vampires his new lieutenants. Nagash raises the first dead ever to walk the earth, and people are horrified as beings. Now, this is covered a bit further in Tomb King's 8th edition, but as Nagash builds his mighty black vampire in what is central Cetraland, basically, incorporated, copyright, do not steal, original character, he builds a huge blackened vampire from stone that they're not quite certain where it comes from. Now, this is kind of a fun aside as well, because I remember in the older books, they made it pretty clear that the way they got the original black stone was from dealing with Skaven in exchange of actually getting warpstone. And there used to be, Chris, do you remember what's the name of the guy that the French like vampire chick fights?
In Adolphus Krieger?
Is it?
Yeah.
Genevieve, in like the first Genevieve book.
Oh, in the Genevieve book. I was thinking in the Vampire Slayer book.
Oh, yeah, no, it's a good one too. Yeah, Drakenfell. I had to actually reach for the book here. It's said in like the first one. This is also kind of fun. We mentioned it in Vampire Count 6th edition. Drakenfels was a pretty integrated part of the lore way back. He was like apparently the first major necromancer since Nagash, and he helped like orchestrate the rise, and then he just got written out of Warhammer Fantasy in totality. So Nagash got the black stone from, well, I guess various sources, builds his huge brooding black pyramid, which is hundreds of meters large. It's a tremendous complex. It dwarfs the throne of Eve, etc. And then he releases the plagues upon Egypt. We're talking Moses-like levels of plagues here. The water becomes tainted, the people become sick, the undead terrify them, and none can stand against the waves of Nagash, except for the legendary hero Alcazar. It can't be Alcazar, right?
Alcazar?
I'm misremembering that. Has to be. Let me see here. Books. Aid me. No, yeah, there we go. No, not Alcazar. Alcadizar. Alcadizar, whose wife.
So what you're meaning to tell us is that it isn't a Swedish disco pop band that fought Nagash.
I'm not a sinner nor a saint, and I'm just gonna lose my head.
That's actually the music they played on like the giant brass horns as he charged against Nagash in a feudal fight.
So every time you see a skeleton with one of those horns, you know that's the music that comes out. It's not eerie dooting or anything. It's just pop disco.
Yeah, Swedish 2000 disco. I mean, actually, didn't you know that? It's been in the lore for a long time. The hero Alcadizar rallied the shadow remnants of the nation, unfortunately in futility. He had seen his wife, Neferata, not that one, dying from the plague. So he galvanized the last of Lish priesthood. He galvanized the remaining of the tomb princes in the feudal kingdoms, and thousand upon thousand chariots crashed against the waves of undead that Nagash had summoned forth. Alas, to no avail. He was captured, and in the 4th edition book, Nagash holds an entire monologue that goes on for like four paragraphs, and with the tainted lore therein, he breaks Alcadizar's mind because he's now revealed his grand plan. He's going to kill the entirety of Khemri, raise it again, and then conquer the world with its undead legions. Alcadizar is, in classic Bond villain manner, imprisoned beneath the temple of Nagash just to witness the death of his nation, just break his spirit, and then see how futile ever resistance was. Now, this is where it becomes kind of coy, because in the 4th edition book, it's very clear that the Skaven break in because they want all the warpstone underneath Nagash's black pyramid and gives Alcadizar the dire blade. In later books, they say that hunched figures emerged and gave him the blade. Alcadizar gets up, chops the head of Nagash, and walks out of the story. The crown of Nagash and the dire blade is found by some Hmong later on, and they put it on and get corrupted, and the circle repeats. Now, this is where the story of Khemri begins. with its ending, with a deadly genesis. The pathogenesis of the Khemri nation comes from all of its death, because the one thing that Nagash's grand necromantic spell didn't kill was the Lich priesthood. Actually, something they never realized was that they were now effectively immortal. The spell had worked on a premise that anything living should die, and thusly, the averse was true. The reverse was true. They're averse to life, I guess. So the Lich priesthood have now arisen as the only remaining life in Khemri. And they realize they got some splaining to do. They go and they hear a great banging from beyond. And there, upon the pyramid of Setra, they open the gilded gates and find the Setra himself, the imperishable, the unbreakable, he who sings, has awoken. And he's pissed, because this shitty-ass crumbling mummy body is not what I imagined. Turns out that all the Tomb Kings had been awoken, and for years they have broken their mighty skeleton legions against one another to once again claim dominion over Khemri. So, Setra does what a king does. He commands. He sets the Lich priesthood aside because they have failed him. This is not an immortal body perfected beyond necessity. This is a shattered shell, yet duty perseveres, and kings has noblesse oblige? My French is shit, so feel free to correct me, or Chris or Mårten. One of you guys statistically have to have read like French in school. Noblesse oblige? He has the obligations of nobility, so he commands. The Tomb Kings are to be returned to their pyramids, their eternal rest and vigilance restored. Until such a time as Setra marches forth and unites them all under his banner, they shall rest and awake only when called upon. And that's where we are now, basically. I mean, there's a great divide in the community as to can you ever include Tomb Kings in like a narrative campaign. There's a couple of examples in the 6th and 8th edition book, but basically if orcs ever come across the line or divide, the Tomb Kings awaken. If Marco Colombo comes in and like heists a couple of things out of a pyramid, the Tomb Kings awaken. They will walk to the ends of the earth until they actually find these items. Setra is specifically said to only awaken if he is needed to unite the banners of men underneath him. So there we are. The initial story of the Tomb Kings. There are a couple of other things I omitted, but most of them actually tie into vampire lore. And as we know, I can go on for days about vampire lore. But I'm going to read you something like really fun. Can any one of you tell me where the first like unit entry for Tomb Kings was in the books?
The old undead book.
Yeah. And I'm going to read you. Mummies come from the ancient tombs of Araby, the desert lands far to the south of the overworld. They're plucked from their tombs and sold by merchants to the curious, commanding an extremely high price. The ancient people of that land were a race of warriors and magicians, but their chief preoccupations were death and necromancy. All that remains of them today are the ruins of their temples, their tomb, and their mummies. So basically in 4th edition, the mummies were just from Araby, and they kept being smuggled out and somehow just found their hands into powerful necromancers, awoke them, and just said like, you know, people have just been shitting on you for centuries, and they fought with them, just fought under the banner for a long time.
Well, it was either that or been turned into paint.
Yeah.
Oh, wait, that
Or
was
like
real life.
burn steam engines.
Yeah, that was real life. Oh, no.
Well, anyway, that's the brief, I guess as brief as I can do it, history of the Tomb Kings. We're here mainly to talk about 6th edition Tomb Kings, I guess. Well, I guess we are. We have a huge unit entry. A lot of what I said for the vampire accounts actually carries over into the Tomb Kings as well. The differentiation, the core differentiation rule-wise, is magic for the Tomb Kings. When you play the Tomb Kings, you always have to have two stated things. The first one is the leader of the army, which is the foci of the army, a Tomb Prince or a Tomb King. And you have to have a Lich Priest, or a High Lich Priest, I guess. Now, the thing with the Lich Priest is they have magic, but sort of they don't. You have a meager, let's see, 4 spells. Yeah, one is a magic missile, one lets you shoot again, one lets you march, which counts as a charge, and one lets you resurrect D3 wounds. These work as bound spells, so whenever you want to cast it, you choose a spell, and if you have a Lich Priest, you roll 2 d6s, and that's the power rating. If you have a High Lich Priest, you roll 3 d6 power spells. These are not power dices, and it specifically says they can't be negated by enemy items, nor stolen or anything similar, which is like good and bad. It also specifically says, freaking high elves, Chris over there, feeling good, items which modify the power level of spell rolls do affect incantations, such as the highest spell Drain Flame and the magic item Amulet Purifying Flames. Miscast and Irresistible Force do not apply to incantations. but the rules for automatic failures do apply to spell attempts made in the attempt magic phase. So then there's like an order for magic. First, you have to use all bound items not used by characters. Icon bearer has to use the bound items, then the Tomb Prince, the Tomb King, and Heroic Hierarchy. Now, the Tomb King and the Tomb Prince actually get to cast one of these incantations as well. And if I remember correctly, they can use either the March, Fight, or Shoot one. So basically, your magic lets you do one of the 4 things. Throw a magic missile, which is March, which leads into a charge, which is actually a highly potent use. Shoot again, which is good if you have a bunch of skeleton bowmen, or resurrect. It's a very limited amount of wounds. For skeletons, you can actually resurrect D6 or 2D6, depending on what kind of magician you have, or wizard. But otherwise, yeah. It's kind of weird because they're one of those armies that have their very own magic phase, but it's also unimpressive, but it's very basically supportive. I don't know. Have either one of you ever faced Tomb Kings?
Yep.
What do you guys think about their magic? Is it like you lean back and laugh, or is it like, oh shit, edge of the seat?
Well, given that on an average game, I always burn out my mages by turn 2. I can't really comment on how effective other magic is. It has happened too many times to be more than just a coincidence. It's more of a trend at this point statistically.
I kept wondering about that. Like, did you pee in a holy place or something, or like step on the shadow of a black cat wasn't usually large? Do you regularly have like a huge black dog howling outside of your house? Like, what did you do?
That's just depression.
Have you ever considered that maybe it's sort of depression, but also a potent curse that follows your bloodline through the ages?
Well, it would explain a lot of things.
So, I mean, again, core units. You have skeleton warriors. You can have them with bows. I'm going to use a bunch of bows. Skeleton light horsemen and tomb swarms. Swarms are basically the old swarm rules, except they have poison attacks. You also have the heavy horsemen, which is basically light horsemen, but they have light armor and shields. Price-wise, I mean, it's the same thing I've said before. The only difference between these and the vampire count skeletons is that they come with a shield for free. You can have hand weapon and shield. I mean, yeah, the thing you really need to focus on is the chariot. You get 1 chariot for 40 points, and it comes in up to size of 12. They're super powerful. Like, if you ever think that Cavalry Hammer is the way 6th edition, you should really see a huge amount of chariots coming down. The light chariot rule for the Tomb Kings means that they can actually navigate pretty easily. They swing super easily, and they get these side charges in pretty coolly. If you have a Tomb King in your army, you can have the chariots as your core choice. Otherwise, you could just have like a super small bespoken army and have tomb swarms. You could have like 6 tomb swarms split into 2 units, and that's your troop choices. Like we spoke about for every army. In 6th edition, theoretically, you could have a really small army. I think that's the way to do it here.
Yeah, and if you want to know more about the light cavalry and the chariots, we talk about that in our cavalry tacticas.
Yeah, I have nothing really to add there because I'm not better than you guys at the game in any way.
And if you listen to the tacticas, you get them compared to other units as well.
Favorably, if I remember correctly.
Yeah, they're good.
You can basically split the Tomb King army rules-wise into 3 distinct units. And I'm just talking about Mayhem. The first one is like the slightly smaller skeletons. Then you have the faster cavalry because they have a surprising amount of cavalry. And the third one is the huge beady meaty monsters. You have the Shabti, you have the Tomb Scorpion, you have a Tomb Giant. Basically, they follow the same sort of, I was going to say the same material, but they're big, beady monsters. Like the Shabti are basically like, they're the carved statues you imagine at the entrance of pyramids. You have the classic ones. You have the Bastet head, the cat. You have the Horus, like the eagle. They're really cool sculpts. They're big. They're beady. They're a bit slow. But if you want fast units, you have your cavalry. These are basically the anvil to your hammer. You shore up a line with them. Another thing we should mention, of course, is that they have a special rule known it came from below. And you can have this on your tomb swarms. You got to help me out there, Chris. Tomb swarms, tomb scorpion, and I think that's it, right? You can give it some units as well with magic items.
Yeah, I think that's it.
Basically, it's the old reserve rule. You can't come in. If you use it from it came from below, you on the second turn, you roll dice. And on 4+, you come in. Third turn, 3+, and so forth. You come in, you roll a scatter dice and artillery dice, and then you deploy it. If you scatter onto a unit, it counts as you charging them, which is really good. I mean, it counts as you charging them, and you can get a flank or a rear charge with a Scorpion, which is the ideal situation. If you get a misfire, it gets a bit worse. 1 to 2, they're destroyed, but the enemy get no points for the destruction. 3 to 4, they are destroyed, but the enemy gets victory points. 5 to 6, the enemy can place them wherever they want on the entire map. So like in front of your cannon or just in range of shooting them. I have not played this army yet, but I would for sure use it came from blow. My army is not super big. I did it just to fill up all the points like a couple of years ago. So I have 1 Scorpion and I have like 6 Tomb Swarms. And just the idea of having a bunch of swarms coming up from the sand, the ability to attack somebody from below, strikes me as incredibly fun. Tomb Swarms are like very small. They're small skirmishers. But they do have poison attacks, strength 2, toughness 2, 5 wounds, 5 attacks. But I mean, it's kind of funny, right? Do you remember that scene from The Mummy when Omar Jalebi tries to steal scarabs and they just swarm all over him and consume him from within? That's sort of what I'm imagining.
Yeah.
I don't know why I sound like that Warner Brother character. The Tomb Scorpion is strength 5, toughness 5, 4 wounds. It's an undead construct, which means that they lose wounds, but they get 2 less wounds if they're close in the 12 inches battle standard bearer. They have 5 plus save, poison attack, killing blow, and magic resistance 1. One of these in the side of your archers, like your firemen, your dwarves, will ruin your day. I just love them so much, Chris. I don't know what to say. Like, they're so good. They're so freaking good.
And they're characterful as well for the army, because
Yeah.
no one else have them.
No one else has anything like them. You also have like the old 4th edition Screaming Skull. It's a catapult. Like, what do you want me to say? The difference is that they do magical attacks and flaming attacks, and you do -1 to leadership if you hit someone with it. Then you have, of course, I mean, the Casket of Souls. I mean, when I think of Tomb Kings, and you have to think of like a bespoke unit besides Scorpion and like the Sheriff, I have to think about this unit.
Yeah.
It's basically it's the Ark of the Covenant from Indiana Jones, The Last Crusade. So
the only thing similar in the game is the Altar of Doom for the dwarves.
Oh yeah, it is, right? Because I keep thinking that the Dark Elves have one, but that's later editions, isn't it?
Well, they do have the what is it called?
Hey, Mårten, wait, welcome back. We talk about the Casket of Souls.
Yeah, they have the Cauldron of Blood, but it isn't the same in the 6th edition. It still have some bound shit like all of them.
I mean, I'll get back to the Casket of Souls. Just got to ask, what's your opinion like the magic that Tomb Kings use, Mårten? Have you ever faced Tomb Kings?
No, I haven't. So I have no data on that. But you said before that it was shit.
It's shit.
What are you
but
talking
also
about?
fun.
Their own lore specifically? Or
Oh no, that's in 8th edition. It's shit. In 6th edition, we'll just repeat it quickly. They have like 4 spells. One is a shooting one is like regain wounds or resurrect skeletons, one is move and potentially charge, one is fight again, and one is shoot again.
Okay.
And you roll 2d6 for the power rating, but it always goes off unless you cancel it.
Oh, okay. I thought it was weird in 8th edition that they didn't have any like dedicated race dead, because that just seems like, oh, you're an undead faction, you should have some sort of necromancy spell. But it was more of an attribute, like anytime you do a spell, you get some back, or
yeah, it's like egregious, because the vampire accounts had 2 different ones in 8th edition. You had like raise dead, create new units, and then you had like invocation of the heck.
Yeah, exactly. But why not for Tomb Kings? Is it because they raise their dead in a different manner? Is it like it takes time and you have this?
Yeah, it's because they don't have unlimited dead. They just have like everyone who willingly gave their life and walked into the tomb of a Tomb King. I think we talked way back in like episode 6 or something of Vampire Counts. The Tomb Kings preserve their souls. We mentioned this in the intro, I guess, which we totally recorded just now. That was not pre-recorded in any manner. How dare you, fellow listener? So basically, they walked willingly into death and servitude forever, and they're mindless automatons. The Vampire Count can just resurrect anyone who just died, but the Tomb Kings have to like carefully preserve the being, the ka, of a person who died into the bones and bring them back. So yeah, 8th edition is like a lower attribute, but you get D3 plus 1, which is just an insult.
Yeah, that's not a lot. But I mean, I understand the aspect that you want to make them different. But I think that's cool. But I still think like, oh, shouldn't they be able to summon a bit more? Or I don't know. And I don't know how good the spells are. Maybe they're not good in their own right. But they can also take lore of light, right? And death, I think, in 8th edition.
Yeah, in 6th edition you can't. In 6th edition you can take like this one because they do incantations instead of magic. But one thing I should mention, I guess, is that they have an unseemingly large amount of magic items. Like I compared it, they have 5 pages of magic items anyone can use. The Vampire Count book has 4, I guess, but then it's split up. Like these ones can only be used by a blood dragon. These ones can only be used by like a homeless angry man who lives under an overpass. Sorry, Strigoi. And these can be used by the objectively best vampires ever, blood dragons. So here anyone can use them. If I was going to tell you the Casket of Souls, what would be your guess that the cheapest you can get one is, like in points?
Isn't like 165 points plus a high priest?
Oh yeah, plus a Lich Priest. Do you know what it comes up to at a minimum?
Some 400 points.
Oh, close. 280.
What?
280 points. Wait, do you think that's cheap? You sound like positively surprised. I think I heard a
given
gasp.
that the high priest costs 245 points.
Yeah, but you can have a Lich Priest for 115.
Ooh.
Yes, you don't have to have like the High Priest. You could just take like a Lich Priest, which brings it up to 280. And I mean, it's kind of weird because anyone who can draw line of sight to it.
All right. I always miss that the Lich Priest can take it as well.
Yeah. So it has like a slew of special rolls. It's a war machine, but when this, let's see, where is it? There you go. It affects all enemy units that can draw a line of sight to the casket itself. So I mean, can you see? You can't see through other units, right? Or can you?
I think it's direct line of sight. It's clarified in a FAQ somewhere.
Roll a 2d6 and deduct the unit's leadership. So that's going to be like what? 2d6 is 8. What's the average unit of like a human? Is that 8 or 6 or 7?
You're asking me. I don't play humans.
Okay, well, but what's the elf leadership? It's probably something ridiculous like 10 or I don't know.
8, 9, or 10 depending on the unit. I think because there's some with 8. Same with dwarves.
Yeah, so let's say you deduct the leadership. That scores the number of wounds the unit suffers with no armor saves distributed as for shooting. They also, all enemy wizards suffer -1 on their total casting rolling dice. They cause terror. And I mean, that's it. I think it has the ability to be a really funny thing because you put on the casket and then you put down like your cavalry and you keep out of the way. And then you jump up behind someone with like a scorpion or some tomb swarms and they just have to look straight into it and their face melts. I mean, how many guys do you have to lose to make like a panic check, Chris, in an army? If you have a unit of like 20, do you have to lose like, what is it, 10%? No?
You're asking me like I've played the game in the past pandemic time.
Statistically speaking, you have played the game more than me throughout your life.
Yeah, that's true. I am just, I'm still recuperating from being ill, so I'm not really sure.
No, do complicated math. Dance for me. Okay, let's say just for sake of, let's say you have to lose like 10%, or let's say I think it's worth it. You can reduce people's leadership, and it's 2d6 plus 2. I mean, just roll good dice, dude. Just like roll well. I think it might be worth it. I'm going to take one because I painted it up and I was fairly happy with the painting modus, which is my modus operandi for deploying units in general. Like, was I happy painting this thing? Does it spark joy? Yes, I will use it. Will it win me games? No, but I'll have fun. Well, I mean, yeah. The Casket of Souls, I've got a Bone Giant, which is hilariously underwhelming for what it costs. It's like 300 points. Movement 6. It's like a giant, right? I wish Jimmy was here so he could tell us like the actual schematic difference between like a Bone Giant and a giant. It's undead, so it causes terror actually. Oh, if it was fair. 5 plus armor save. Yeah, when it charges, for every wounding hit that the Bone Giant inflicts when it charges, the Bone Giant gets to make an additional attack. And such additional attacks can also benefit from Unstoppable Assault rule, which I guess is like basically the old Blood Angels rule. Remember, like the Furioso Dreadnought could keep attacking basically indefinitely. It has that rule.
And there's also a whole set of alternative rules for it in White Dwarf.
Is it? Oh yeah, is that when you could like basically build your own giant, or?
Rare unit, Bone Giant, 210 points, weapons and armor, hand weapon, heavy armor, total armor save of 3+. Then you have options, maybe given one of the following additional hand weapon: giant bow, great weapon, or a shield.
Oh, cool.
And the giant bow are a strength 5, D3 wounds.
I don't
And
remember.
like
coolest,
fire.
coolest option, the bow. Does it work like a bolt thrower?
Yeah, it's a strength 5 D3 wounds.
Uh-huh.
So it's like,
is it
goblin.
Is it Bow of the Desert or something in 8th edition?
Yeah, it might be.
Yeah, in 8th edition, you can give it a Bow of the Desert or an additional hand weapon or a great weapon.
Yeah. Also, you can move and fire with the bow.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. In
And,
8th edition, it's strength 6, multiple wounds, D3.
Yeah.
But,
and in this version, it do get the bonus rules from Khalida.
Oh, yeah. It
Arrows
gets
of
the Bows of Azaf.
And
That's
Arrows of the Asp,
nice.
so you can remember the last target and so can draw line of sight over smaller targets. So you can just have it like a walking bolt thrower.
That is cool.
And it still comes with the hand weapon at that point as well.
I'm gonna cover like there are only 2 special characters. One is Cetra, and I think most people have faced him. I'm actually gonna talk about what?
Oh, that's 3 in Total War.
Sehenes Met, the Vizier of Qatar.
In this book, there's only 2.
Yeah, he was released in White Dwarf alongside the Bone Giant.
Is that Sehenes Met, the Vizier of Qatar?
Yeah.
Because he's mentioned in the Mighty Heroes of Nekahara, like King Far, Sehenes Met, Prince Tutankhanut. I love how they're basically they're historical characters with like the serial numbers filed off.
I'm just going to mention the little quick blurb here, which is modeling suggestion. The body of a tomb scorpion contains an entombed lich priest. Any model with a bit of experience shouldn't find it hard to transplant this into the chest of a bone giant. Ideas for the basic of a sacred crook of Shapesh include banner pole, chariot, or Cetra's chariot joke, or the arm from a screaming skull catapult.
Listen, I don't want to be a dick, but I call bullshit on that because this bone scorpion is made out of metal.
Yeah,
how would you carve that thing
file
out?
Down the entire thing. And the bone giant was made out of metal as well. So
I love the amount of confidence they had in us as 12-year-olds with just operating heavy machinery. Because I remember that's the way it was. Like if I walked into wood shop, like age 13, like Christer, which was the name of like our shop teacher, because of course it was Sweden. Teacher Christer, could I please be allowed to use like the heavy tools? And he always looked at us like, you can't operate the buzzsaw unattended. No, of course. Yeah, okay. And then he left. So you could just like make ninja stars in there all day long and like just fuck around with the saws or whatever, as long as we didn't touch the buzzsaw.
Yeah. So about the first characters, we can take Sehenesmet at the end because it's a White Dwarf character.
Yeah, I only want to talk about Queen Khalida.
Yeah. So you're skipping Cetra?
You painted her recently.
Yeah, I painted her recently, and I mean, I think it's a really cool model. The Queen Khalida, beloved of the Asp, goddess, tomb queen of the Eastern Deserts. Historically, she comes a bit, I guess, after the death of Cetra, but before the rise of Nagash. Also, as a fun aside, do you guys know what the Bronze Age collapse was?
Yeah, with some like climate change in a lot of cultures.
Yeah, they have no idea. Like, basically, they don't know exactly why all the major large Bronze Age eras collapsed, like Assyria and like basic ancient Egypt, which was super prosperous and huge and successful, and it just disappeared.
The
sea people. The
sea people came from the east, and they don't know basically what it came from.
Atlanteans.
I love how in Warhammer they answered on what caused the Bronze Age collapse, and that was Nagash. The spell of the dead caused the Bronze Age collapse.
It's as plausible as any explanation, really.
I just think it's beautiful, like the historical amount of subversion they did there.
Could still be true for in real life as well. We just don't know yet.
It makes me think of Mårten as the guy from Ancient Aliens.
I'm not
saying
such
a thing
Nagash,
impossible.
But it was Nagash.
You have to hold your hands up like that. Nagash.
I am. And my hair suddenly turned frizzy.
You look like the Centauri from Babylon 5, the same fringe hair.
So how about Cetra?
It was Nagash.
How about Cetra?
Nagash. So Khalida, beloved of the Asp goddess, tomb queen of the Eastern Desert. I'm going to summarize it into a tagline for you guys. Yo, dog, I heard you like poison and bows.
So I put poison in your bows.
Yeah.
Gave your bows poison.
Okay. Something I should tell you is that all the Tomb Kings are hilariously flammable, which makes the army super easy to defeat, because if you know you're going to face them, just take something that has a lot of flame magic, like the Ruby Ring of Ruin, and something that's immune, like Night Goblins. That's immune to poison.
I did that once with when I played Dwarves and took a the hammer of flight, the rune of flight on a hammer, and the rune of fire, so it costs fire attacks. So even if you throw it or punch them in melee, it was still fire attacks. It's also a good tactic if you know your opponent is bringing tree men to battle.
Yeah. We don't allow you to see like the two towers anymore. You drew way too much inspiration from that scene.
And the reason why they're flammable is because they were embalmed, all of them.
Yeah, I mean, it makes perfect sense lore-wise.
Yeah.
It's a beautiful way of like integrating rules into the actual gameplay. So Khalida has a pretty beefy line. She has movement 6, weapon skill 6, ballistic skill 4, strength 4, toughness 5, 3 wounds, initiative 9. She has initiative 9 and always strikes first. And it says if both units participating in combat, please resolve it in initiative order. I love someone's like, I have a high elf like Phoenix Prince or whatever they call it. I don't care. All of you else, I make this about the color of your sails or about where y'all came from in your boats. But you elves better high on tail out of here. That was horrible. Because like they're like, I always strike first, and like, cool, what's your initiative? Initiative 7. I have initiative 9.
I can say that most elven characters they have always strike first, and 6th edition have initiative 10.
I doubt it. I'm not gonna check that out because it might be true, but I doubt it. High elf propaganda.
Sounds like something Keeper of Secrets would have.
Yeah. Mårten should start a Slaanesh army, by the way. You should start a cult of Slaanesh army. Dark elves and Slaanesh.
I've been more into starting a Tomb King's army, but I'm concerned that you just buy all the models that I see on the secondhand market. So
you already have.
You have no idea, Mårten. You have no
I don't dare
idea.
I don't dare to.
It turns out from us recording the intro till to now, I literally found another box of Tomb Kings.
Like a battalion.
I have a sculpt of a banner BSB guy who wasn't even released. Damn. I can't find him. Like in any of the manuals anywhere.
Oh, that's awesome.
Let's see.
Wasn't the BSB for the Tomb King army deal?
Yeah, no, not that one. I have another one as well.
Yeah, fair enough.
So the Queen's command, she can call Horka's incantation Righteous Smiting, which is the fight again one, and it can't be dispelled. Any army that includes Khalida must contain at least one unit of skeleton warriors armed with bows, which is easy because I have 4 to 5. And any unit of skeletal bowmen, light horsemen, and chariots in army that has Queen Khalida may be given the blessing of the Asp, which means that all shooting is poisoned. It's not like a game breaker, but I think it's a nice like wiggle. If you're gonna fight like cavalry or like heavy units, it's a good way just to get rid of them or piss them off. She causes terror and she has regeneration. Oh yeah, something I should say. Every Tomb King and Tomb Prince has something known as the curse, which ties into like, when we grew up, there's always this myth that when you open up a pyramid, you got killed by the magical curse of the ancient pharaohs. Mm-hmm. There's something here. You take like a d6 amount of dice if you kill them. She has one that's way worse.
So if you kill a mummy, basically, you get a curse on you after. Is that the thing?
Yep.
Oh, nice.
You lose wounds, and you have basically it could be like a mutually assured destruction if you fight them and then you die. I could just find a rule here. They have so many rules, and I love it.
So wait, also, how does the blessing work? Do you buy that as an upgrade, or is it the unit that she joins that gets the blessing?
That's an 8th edition. The unit she joins get it automatically in 8th edition. Here you just buy it. You buy it for 2 points per unit. No, 2 points per model.
Okay. Yeah, because in 8th edition, also the unit that she joins gets to use her ballistic skill. So I mean, ballistic skill 3 skeletons with poison attacks hitting on 4+. That's pretty good, right? It seems
they don't have that here. But here the bowmen have that they always use their unmodified ballistic skill. Which it sounds good and it sounds bad, but it's actually a bit of both because you don't have to think about shooting like twice the distance or like a moving target. You always have BS2, which is easy to remember.
I mean, that's better than most units, most armies, I would say, except for maybe elves. It's always like humans. You would move or you would be long range, so you would be hitting on 5s or worse anyway, I think, with shooting.
You don't count bonuses or penalties.
Yeah, I mean, that's really good.
Let's see, here we go, the curse. The model responsible for destruction of a Tomb King or Prince must immediately take a leadership test. If the test is failed, the model will suffer D6 wounds that can't be saved in any way, including ward saves, nor regenerated.
That is cool, though. But in a way, it's like, you already killed my general and my army is crumbling. So, I guess you're cursed now. But that doesn't help that much, maybe.
Well, I mean, if you play victory points, it's good. Because you could have a Tomb Prince on a chariot and a Tomb King. And you ride in and challenge someone. Like if you play the Dogs of War, I ride in and I challenge your paymaster or general, and you kill my Tomb Prince, and maybe you take a couple of wounds if it doesn't kill you outright. But that means you're now pretty hurt.
That is true. Oh yeah. So you send like a decoy to be killed and take someone with them in death. That could work.
Yeah, and then you're like, well, this isn't too bad. And then a scorpion erupts from the ground and you start sniffing at you like, okay, fuck, this could be a way worse. And then like tomb swarms just start crawling up the leg and you're like, okay, this is not ideal. And then for some reason, these fucking skeletons won't stop shooting. I mean, they're barely hitting me, but why won't they stop? Jeez, and is that another freaking giant?
It's in their bones.
Oh God, I'm looking at the magical light box now. This is not good. Yeah.
Khalida is cool.
Khalida still costs you 420 points though. I mean, I don't think it's really worth it.
Yeah.
She also has a bound item, which is 24 inches and it causes a strength 2d6 strength 4 hits. If you take any wounds from it, it may not move in the next movement phase.
Oh, is that the weird snake staff she carries? Or
yeah,
something?
And it's just hilariously trolling because you have to dispel it, right? It's just power level 5, but it stops a unit from moving.
Yeah, that's pretty big. Oh.
Yeah. They also have, like, I forgot to mention it, one of the units I'm building right now is the Tomb Guard, which is basically Grave Guard. They have Killing Blow, and they have magical weapons, and they have heavy armor and shields. That's, no, they have light armor. Oh my God, they have light armor? Yeah, anyway, so that's it.
Not much armor in this. Not much armor in this army.
No, we spoke about that while you were like tending to your.
Oh yeah, sorry. I probably missed
poor life choice.
I'll have to listen to the episode afterwards to learn about the Tomb Kings now. But
I gotta tell you, like Mårten, if you have 2 kids, it's the best because you just tell them that Daddy doesn't have favorites, but he can't logically love you the same amount. So yes, my younger one's pretty cute and does stuff, but the older one can actually fill up the dishwasher. So hey.
That's true.
Who gets is it done correctly?
I mean,
or do you have to change
it?
As
good as I would do it. Take from that what you will.
So yeah, you probably need someone to sort out your dishwasher.
Let me tell you the secret of being married. If you don't do something, you're a lazy slob. If you do something well, the question is why aren't you doing it all the time? If you do it once and twice and you do it very poorly, yet it seems as you're doing to ultimate ability that you could, you tried. And you can't be blamed for being shit at something.
You won't be asked again.
That's why it took my wife 5 years to realize that I've grown up living more or less on my own for a large amount period. And of course I can clean or like get the grout out of tiles or like repair stuff. Of course I can, man. I grew up on my own, but I never told her that. Until she got the stomach flu and she realized I'd cleaned the entire apartment while she was knocked out. And she's like, you did this? Yeah. You can do this? Yeah. Then why don't you do this? Well, I mean, you did it. Apparently not the right answer.
And that's why Cetra is a good character.
Exactly.
Etc.
Chariot of the Gods. That's a pretty awesome ride he's got.
Yeah, do you want to go for Cetra? Because I'm never going to play Cetra. Because I do not know how I would transport it.
Is it too expensive? Oh yeah, that's with the extra horses on the side and everything.
Yeah, it's 625 points.
Ooh. Well, I have the 8th edition rules here, and he is weapon skill 7, ballistic skill 3, strength 6, toughness 5, 4 wounds. Me. But the chariot has 5 wounds, though, so I guess is he always on the chariot? Can you take him without the chariot?
In 6th edition, you have to take him on chariot. I'm not sure in 8th edition, because 8th edition got weird rules about mounts.
It's so funny, because in 6th edition, Cetra's army represents his personal guard, and half of the points of the army must be spent on the following unit types. Chariots, heavy cavalry, and Tomb Guard. It may not contain any Lich priests, which is like
jealous.
Okay, but remember I told you in the intro how he like basically abolished the priesthood and said, "You guys fucked up. I ain't gonna trust you no more."
Yeah.
The amount of story and gameplay integration they did for 6th edition is it's awe-inspiring sometimes.
Yeah,
but can make the armies hard to play, maybe.
Yeah,
that is because I got the special rules for Cetra. Can do a little bit stats first, of course. Cetra has got a movement of 4, but they got a chariot, so it doesn't matter. Weapon skill 7, but it's skill 4. Strength, toughness 5, 4 wounds, initiative 4, attacks 5, and leadership 10. Then he got the chariot and horses, of course. But those
he has a 2+ armor save that can never be worse than 4+, even if hit by a cannonball. He has a 4+ ward save, and he causes terror. He always strikes first. If anyone else has the ability to strike first, then it's striking normal initiative. If this is also equal, roll a dice to see who strikes first. keep track of number of hits Cetra scores with his weapon. After his attacks have been resolved, any enemy unit in base contact with Cetra must take a leadership test with a negative modifier equal to the number of hits caused by Cetra. If the test is passed, then the enemy avert their gaze and suffer no ill effects. If the enemy fails the test, then they reduce to weapon skill 1 for the remainder of that combat round. If they roll double or more on their modified leadership value, then in addition to being reduced to weapon skill 1, the unit suffers D6 strength 4 hits.
Yep. So his blade has got most of the rules from a Cask of Souls baked into it.
Yeah.
And it's, of course, he's undead, he's flammable, he's great. We're just going to leave it at that. Then the army we talked about, and he's got a unit strength of 8.
Yeah, I mean he has the Lich Priest rules. That's basically what it says.
Yeah, he got the Hierophant rules. Is it?
Yeah, he is a Hierophant for the army. Remember I said you have to have like a Lich Priest?
Yeah.
He can use the incantation same way as a Lich Priest. He rolls D6, 3d6.
Yeah,
and that's
a
like
Lich
the value.
High Priest. Even.
Yeah, Lich High Priest. And it's funny because he has a unit strength of 2 and his chariot has a unit strength of 6. So Cetra and his chariot has a unit strength of 8. So that's why he has that like wonky chariot thing.
Which is also great when you're doing charges into units, because then you have a unit strength.
One thing I will actually say that I did like with 8th edition is the amount of extra characters they put in, because Cetra has like this banner bearer dude, right?
Oh yeah, he's cool. Is he the herald? Like
he's the herald of Cetra.
Nekaf. Emissary of Cetra. Yeah. That's
basically
nice.
Dude who went to places like, y'all done fucked up and Cetra's gonna wreck your shit lest you fall in the fold, and people are like, oh shit, not fucking Cetra, man. And then they did. Which is actually a reference to a Greco-Roman way of warfare. If you've ever seen like 300, which I assume all of us have, as we're dudes and we grew up in 2000s,
Yes.
that thing when the trainer from Spartacus, the TV series, shows up and tells them that he wants, what is it, like water and bread? That's actually a pretty classic thing that the Persians did. But I mean, before the Persians, the Parthians, and it's something that was done in the Greco-Roman world in general before, like the city-state formations. So this actually has historical bias with the banner bearer guy showing up. Now I have waxed
So what you're
on.
saying is that he's pretty much a version of Malagurst with a more complete body.
Even though he's dead.
I will talk about 30k and I won't stop. I think this has been documented. I will go on. Don't you get me started.
You went on so far to take my spot on another podcast.
They technically have one Kristoffer. Don't you dare. It's like no homers allowed. We just have one homer. Now I'm going to talk about a much vaunted subject.
No, we got the one character more to go to.
Well, I don't have the rules for that one.
I do. They're right in front of me.
Well, then you're going to have to read it, and I will judge you silently.
Yeah. We got the Sehenesmet for 595 points. And got a movement of 6, web skill 4, ballistic skill 2, strength 6, toughness 5, 6 wounds, initiative 2, attacks 4, and leadership 9. And he wields the sacred crook of Shapesh.
Ooh.
And if anyone from Nehekara wants to take him up on the pronunciations or anything of this, they can. I'm fine with that. And he wears heavy armor. Heavy armor, giving him a throw of 3. He's a Lich Giant. So Sehenesmet combines the physical power of a bone giant with the mystical arts of a Lich Priest. All the rules for both bone giants and Lich High Priests apply to.
So he is the guy you were supposed to convert, spending all your money on these precious metal models and then carving them up. Okay.
This is one that you probably would benefit from getting the Finecast version of both the Doom Scorpion and Bone Giant.
Yeah.
Do you think this guy was the inspiration for the Hierophant? Hierophant? No, not Hierophant. Hero Titan model or unit that came later. Because I don't know if this guy is in 8th edition.
Then you have the magic resistance.
No, he's not.
Gives himself and any Tomb King's unit within 12 inches magical resistance 2. And the Army of Qatar is very different to that of other Tomb King cities, and the following rules apply. Sehenesmet is both the Hierophant and General of the Army. No other characters may be included. So it's a bit like Cetra in that case. Core units, Tomb Scorpion, Ushabti, 0-2 Tomb Swarms, and 0-2 Skeleton Warriors. Special units, Bone Giant, Skeleton Light Horseman, Skeleton Heavy Horseman. Rare units, Screaming Skull Catapults, Carrion, and Skeleton Chariots. So kind of flipping everything around for what we talked about earlier with the armies. And then he has the Sacred Crook of Shapesh. Took all of the religious symbols. Shapesh. Took all the religious symbols and statues from the great temple of Shapesh, god of the underworld, and melted them down to make his staff. It is shaped in the image of the crook Shapesh used to herd the souls of the dead to the resting places and holds the power of life and death. So it's a great weapon that when you keep track of the number of unsaved wounds inflicted by the weapon, in each close combat phase, in each Tomb King magic phase, the power of the crook may be unleashed as a magic missile that cannot be dispelled before incantations. Pick a single enemy unit within 24 inches as the target. The unit suffers a number of strength 4 hits equal to the number of wounds currently stored in the crook. Once unleashed, the number of wounds stored in the staff will return to 0 until Sedesmet inflicts more wounds. In addition, it doubles the range of Sedesmet's incantations. So it's quite a decent thing to have.
Mhm.
And this is in addition to the rule. This came in addition to the rules of the Bone Giant rules that we had earlier. And it was in White Dwarf, and I think it's in the Chronicles 2004 as well.
Okay.
It might be, I never checked actually. It's probably in there. I never checked the Tomb King stuff for actually.
Is he super expensive points wise?
No, I mean not for what you get.
No, I mean,
I don't think so, Chris.
Nah, not really, given that he's still backed up by Tomb King stuff.
I really like the idea that you could have like Shabdi as just an army.
Yeah, that's cool.
Yeah, it's just bringing alive the statues of his temple, pretty much.
Yeah.
And it gives you a way of playing the Tomb Kings differently than you usually do.
Yeah, that's nice. Another good thing with the 6th edition lists that you got these alternative armies or army. That's really cool, like the Slayer cult sort of.
Yeah, and to be fair, if you have spent all the time and effort and money to convert up the character itself, you should be allowed to use it.
Yeah, definitely.
I feel like that if you built this, you should get some kind of award just for the amount of pain you put yourself from. Just earn that.
Yeah. Well, to be fair, today it could probably just redesign a torso for a bone giant and print it on a 3D printer, but
yeah, I guess, but still. Which actually brings us pretty neatly into the next point I want to cover. One which I think Mårten's going to appreciate since I've drained the entire market. Alternative casts for the Tomb Kings.
Yeah, that's nice. I've looked at some here, yeah.
So the first one I'm going to mention is what was known as the Deserts of the Dead. Did you ever see that Kickstarter?
Yeah.
Desert of the Dead did a great Kickstarter. I don't know if you can still get those models, actually. I tried to find it out before this episode. It's from a guy known as Troll Trader. He did a bunch of really beautiful sculpts. They all had the one sculpt, but they were beautiful. He had an alternative for everything. He even had an alternative Ark in the Black and Krell.
Oh.
You can still get into Kickstarter and I guess contact them, but they had amazing alternatives for everything. They even had a snake-themed Bastet army, which was called Desert Elf, which is a bunch of like cat people, like the goddess Bastet, and also snake people, which really would make a good High Queen Khalida.
Holy shit, halfling sand raiders.
Yeah, I mean,
slave zombie horde.
If you look at it, they have like mummies and ghouls, and one of the mummy archers looks like Ed from Iron Maiden.
Oh, nice. Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah, and the Lich Priests are really good because the Lich Priest GW model is pretty lacking. It's just an old man screaming like at the Munch painting.
Was that the Kickstarter made by TT Combat or something like that?
It might be.
Because TT Combat got an entire line of Desert of the Dead miniatures, among others.
Yeah, that's a good suggestion.
Are these 3D prints then?
Yes.
Would you have to print them yourself, basically?
Not if you buy them from TT Combat, I think. The rest of the miniatures applied unpainted.
Oh, yeah, so it's someone that prints for you. But the Kickstarter guy, this was for...
TT Combat are those who are doing Dropship Commando and all of those as well.
Yeah, no, these guys was an army. It was printed for you. The fancy, the Desert of Dead. You bought these done. But I think you could, as a later option, you had the choice of getting just the STLs.
I sent it in the Discord chat. So
yeah, nice.
You can just check it out so we can...
Cactus men. What the fuck? That's the weirdest.
Those are actually the Cactuars from Final Fantasy, which is super funny. I'm checking right now the homepage.
MDF terrain and stuff. Wow.
I'm checking the homepage for TT Combat. And yeah, this seems to be the one. You can get mummy archers for like 20 quid. You get, wait, how many? 20 resin miniatures. Like, these are really good. To me,
they also
look
got an entire army of halflings, but that's beside the point at the moment.
You're buying it right now. I'd forgotten they make this. I would totally recommend the Anubis ones, because you can get Ushabti from TD Combat, 6 of them for 20 quid. And it used to be sold in groups of 2 for like 15. So this is a huge saving right there. Their heroes, also great saving. Get 3 of them for £15. I would probably get the warriors and the spearmen, but I would not get just the ordinary infinite ones, because to me they look a bit more like ghouls and mummies rather than just raised skeletons. TT Combat in general has a lot of cool fantasy options. You should check it out if you haven't.
They have a shield maiden, walrus rider queen.
Yeah,
It's
they
a
also
halfling
have
shield
genie
maiden.
warriors, and they have giant beetles, which would be great proxies for like the tomb scorpion.
Yep.
I might actually get these giant beetles. They're just so neat.
They have loads of lovely models, just character models as well, and they got lovely pieces of terrain as well. So
I would totally recommend their terrain. I play a lot of Necromunda and like 30k, and their terrain is indispensable for when we had to build a huge table with a lot of volume.
Is it all MDF?
Yeah, it's MDF, but it's good MDF.
Mm-hmm. I'm looking at their Temple of Dice, which is basically like in the board game Bird, like Wingspan, where you put the dice into this building and they will roll out.
Yeah.
And TT Combat is quite a large supplier to a lot of gaming stores and model stores.
I would recommend TT Combat.
But they don't have any like regiments of skeletons here, do they?
No, but they do have an entire army of the undead.
Where is that?
Page 1 of Fancy Heroes, and you choose Mummy Army. For £100, you will get 1 Lich Lord, 1 BSB, 1 Lich High Priest, 20 spears, 20 swords, 20 archers, 1 catapult crew. And it's going to say their catapult is a catapult set in between the heads and shoulders of a sphinx, which is just, classy. 5 vultures, known as carrions in the game, and 6 Nubity warriors.
Oh, nice.
Also, otherwise, contact your local supplier and check out if they would have the ability to buy them in. So you can get everything, including desert basing materials from one supplier. I actually got the other day from Game Maniacs Green Stuff World's Crackle Paint One Step Mojave Mud Crack, and I'm using that and some pigments and just Green Stuff World's Desert Tufts to do all of these bases. It's way easier than GW stuff because it spreads out and dries out super well. These are my first 2 tips. My third one is basically 3D printer goes broom. There are so many STLs if you just check it out.
Some of my favorites are definitely Lost Kingdom miniatures, the Undying Dynasties. I think they have some of the coolest Tomb Kings 3D things. They're awesome. You have like Tomb guy riding on like skeleton camel. You have some weird undead, like the War Elephant, skeleton elephant, which you could use as War Sphinx in 8th edition at least. And they have some. I mean, I think if you combine a lot of these different third parties, you could find models that are really good for making a Tomb King army.
I think I checked them out, but I got a bit. I might be elitist, but I got a bit turned off because their Ushabti is basically a huge Anubis statue just screaming into the heavens, wielding a huge glaive.
Yeah, that's them.
And I looked at it, and I mean, it's a good sculpt. There's nothing else. Just like that looks like a living nightmare transport because it's resin.
Oh yeah, that's true.
And there's so different parts in different directions.
But they have some other things, like their skeleton horsemen are really good, and their chariots I think are awesome.
Oh shit, is that a Shinto range? Kaguya. Yeah, they have like Shinto goddesses as well. That's neat. You don't see that a lot. As anyone who listens to this will know, I am a sucker for mythology and religions. And their chariots are really cool too, Mårten.
Yeah,
you get
I really
2
like
of them
those.
for 12. Well affordable.
But I guess that's just the print. So you'd have to.
Oh, is it? You have to print it yourself?
So. Yeah. But I found you know, if you go on Etsy, you can find people selling these for a reasonable price, and they print it for you. So I think they're nice. I also saw something like called Army of the Sand, I think, on Etsy, which was just skeletons, and I think they were pretty on par with the original ones.
Army of the Sand.
See if I can find it. Armies of the Sand skeletons. If you and do that on Etsy. Maybe this becomes boring for our listeners, but this is a good tip.
We are going to include a list with links.
Yeah,
yes, Chris is.
And that
is that just STL?
I'm just going to say, if there's nothing in that list except TT Combat, it's because none of these two have sent any links to me. Yes or no?
Well, Chris, there are people in this world who do, and then there are people who just talk and they create ideas, and they don't add anything of value. And I fall into that later category. Also, something I would say, and I know my shit pictures and potato cam quality doesn't really stick the point, but I would advise that you get Vallejo liquid copper and liquid gold, which is 791 and 797 when you paint the stuff, because liquid metal from Vallejo plus some oils will make all of the gold and bronze on your models just look really good quickly. And then maybe some ultramatte at the end and some desert pigments. It sounds complicated and convoluted, but if you try it once, you're going to see it's super easy and it's fun. Now I'm going to say the words I'm not entirely certain I've ever said on this podcast. That's all I've got to say about that.
Nice.
Good, because then I have a question for you.
Oh,
hit me with your rhythm stick.
How do you play them?
I don't. Any other questions?
Because that's
this is how I'm going to play them.
Quite a different.
I have a nice combination of basically a mobile gun line. I'm going to have 2x20 skeleton archers with poisoned arrows. Khalida's going to join a 15-man of tomb guards and move up. I'm going to have Casket of Souls just centering the line. 3 chariots, because I think that's all I have right now, as well as a small group of cavalry archers just harassing enemies on the outside. I'm going to have my tomb swarms and my scorpion come up from behind. Now, I know there's a huge deficiency in this, that if somebody else has a lot of cavalry, I might struggle a bit, but I think that the unmodified shots from all of these skeletons, as well as a Lich Priest solidly tying up one of the lines, is going to help a bit. Ideally, I finish up the Ushabti I have. The problem is that all the Ushabti I have, except for one, is made out of fine cast resin, and it pains me to say this, one of them was made out of metal, and they were all in the same box when I moved.
Oh no!
And now I know what it's like.
Standing.
Yes, now I know what it's like when doves cry. I also have 2 or 3 old metal tomb blades, and I'm gonna make them into my tomb princes. I also have a tomb king finished up. I've made it so that pretty much all of my chariots has at least one crewman that I haven't glued in place. It's just leaning on its glaive, so you can lift them off and put a Lich Priest or Tomb Prince in there, which is a tip I would give you. Also, the old metal sculpts, the Lich Priest and the Tomb Princes are really splay-legged, no bow-legged. It looks like they're trying to get on a horse, and that's because the old metal sculpts were made so that if you wanted to put them on a base, you could, but ideally you just put them on a horse. So magnets would be your friend there. That would be my tip. But then again, if you wanted to take, I would say that if you want to have a decently varied army, go with guys who have spears and shields instead. Have them advance up slowly, supporting a Lich Priest. Classic flank support from light cavalry and heavy cavalry. Harass and then countercharge. You'll have a mobile line like that, and a scorpion from behind attacking people in the rear would probably be supportive.
What about the chariots? That's the most iconic unit.
Go through the edges and slam into the side.
Yeah, that sounds cool. I have another question. Well, maybe you talked about this already when I was gone, but just as a small, what did they add for 8th edition that was not in 6th edition, units-wise? Were the Necropolis Knights and
the half Scorpion, half men snakes were new. The Snake Riders are new. The Necrosphinx is new.
And the War Sphinx as well.
The Ushabti Archers are new.
Oh, okay.
Prince Apophas, which is a shame. I wonder if I can get Jim to just make rules for him in 6th edition. Basically, the asshole from the Brendan Fraser mummy movie, who's a dude made out of scarabs.
Scarabs, yeah.
The Necrotect, the guy who exclusively supports all of your giant undead constructs, was new.
Oh yeah, because there's suddenly tons of constructs, and before there was basically just the Ushabti. Were the Bone Giants constructs?
No, they're just big giants.
Okay, yeah. So he suddenly got a job.
The Necrosphinx, the Necrolith Colossus, the Cambrian War Sphinx.
Are also...
Yeah, we spoke about this way back in what I guess we could humorously defer to as season 1 of The Old World Lives, but I always found it kind of weird how all of a sudden it turns out that all the armies had huge freaking bitching like floating boats driven by ghosts or like huge mummy sphinxes just running around and nobody ever noticed it until 8th edition.
I mean,
but everybody got like huge models, and the Tomb Kings were, I think, one of the best support in that regard. I can't say exactly when in the lifeline of Warhammer Fantasy that Tomb Kings were released, but they got a lot of support.
I have no problem with them adding new cool models. I think the Necrosphinx is the coolest Tomb King model. Yeah, that's my opinion.
That's all I gotta say about that.
Yeah.
Well,
I don't care.
You can't have a wrong opinion and having fun, but Mårten is not allowed on again.
No, but I mean,
no, he is.
For me, it doesn't
he's
matter
a filthy dog war playing scum.
How do they explain this with the fluff? I mean, the fluff has always been developing as they make new things, so I don't think that's such a big deal. But they are a cool army. Chris, have you ever thought about collecting Tomb Kings? Have they ever been on your wish list?
Not really.
No?
I like them. I like the look of them. I like the story, but I wouldn't want an army of them. Especially not with the old models.
No.
Why?
Because they're pretty bland.
How dare you?
You know that is one of the worst judgments of something. We used to call them bland.
Pretty bleached.
I think that you're wrong in every regard, and you play 2 flavors of elves, so what do you know? Oh, shit. My compressor started.
Oh, damn.
This is angry like a snake in the background. I'm not creating an evil construct to start
Chris. I think Chris offended it. It can sense its master's will.
Hush, my beauty. Rest, plot. I get it, because even way back in 6th edition, I had a friend who had a bunch of like undead mummy models, and he was so pissed and fuming once they did the delineation of the Vampire Counts and the Tomb Kings, because I know a lot of old school players who say like there's just one army and that's the undead. I know that Freddie, who I have the Horse Heresy podcast on, and you guys have met ostensibly, he refuses to acknowledge that there's a vampire army and a mummy army. And
he refuses to acknowledge that there is any game of the 4th edition.
But I think in that regard, I think they did a really good job distinguishing Sylvania from the Tomb Kings, because I think they're so distinct looking. I think it works. One thing with the Tomb Kings, I think they sometimes suffer the same problems that the Lizardmen do in that we're here fighting sort of in the old world. Why are there Tomb Kings here? Yeah. I would say for me they're one of the armies that you could be like, they're a bit hard to fit in sometimes when you have some sort of, you want to have some sort of background for the mission, and then they're always based with their sand bases, and that can also be a bit like distinct when you're fighting on a grass, or like a snow table or whatever. That's always a problem that you have with some armies, right? I don't.
No, I think we mentioned that while we were gone, but you're entirely correct. It's like we're fighting in the contested border countries. Here, among the border princes, all men are equally represented. The darkness of the high elves come to reclaim former glories. Here comes Estonia to reclaim. No, what is it like? What do you call it? Talabakland comes to reclaim greatness. Kislev refuses to acknowledge the Chaos incursion, and Chaos horsemen come. Also, there are South American rain lizards here. And then come the vampires who come to fight for the glory of their own dark masters, and skeletons and mummies.
It really is. Yes. It really is easier to get a justification for having a campaign with Tomb Kings and dwarves and lizardmen in them. If you just use those, maybe some humans as well, because the entirety of Southlands, south of Nekara, south of Khemri, because they got the lizards, they got the humans, they got the dwarves.
Yeah, I mean, it would be awesome with like an Araby army, and you get some Bretonnians on crusade. That would be really cool for a campaign.
Yeah, and then there's also some empire in the border princes north of.
Yeah, exactly. And I had from there. Yeah, and I had this awesome army about making Southland beastmen who were like gazelles and zebras and shit like that, like African animals, but beastmen. I think that would look awesome.
There is actually a rule suggested in 6th edition book here on why they would be fighting, because they used to put that in the books, mainly for the K. But here it says that they will follow somebody who raids one of their tombs to the ends of the earth.
That is nice. I think, you always, I just took this canopy of like your old liver or something.
Yeah.
And then they will just hunt you down wherever you go.
Imagine
I can buy that.
Imagine being like the clandestine lover of some like minor empire nobility living in the fringes of empire, and like your husband lover comes up and like, Medea, I've acquired a new exciting piece of jewelry. It will be the talk of the town. Thank you,
Ooh.
shitty James Bond imitator. I will wear it with pride. And then at night you hear like the rustling of dry bones and just like trumpets playing Alcazar, I'm not a sinner nor a saint, and just huge chariots going through the small cobblestone. You look out and like your James Bond lover is like, you damn skeletons, you're not taking back this piece of an earring. Ha ha, how about you? You're like, what the fuck is going on?
So that's basically the story about behind the Nemesis Crown campaign.
Yes.
Oh.
But in the Nemesis Crown campaign in 7th edition, they did just that, finding justification for every faction to be in the center of the empire, pretty much. And then the Tomb Kings have, word of the war reaches even the lands of the dead, and etc. Lord of Kemri sees opportunity within the madness.
Oh, that seems a bit, I don't know. I would rather have him like, and also they took my liver or something.
In Lustria and the Southlands, the Slan Mage Priests have felt the reappearance of the Nemesis Crown. As war comes to the Great Forest, so do the ogres of the Mountains of Morn smell blood on the winds.
Everyone is there.
Yeah.
Beneath the howling hills, the vampire Vladakir Rahtep is forced to abandon his foulest experiments and defend his lair.
And you were there. And you were there. And you were there as well.
Yeah,
but
so
I mean,
they didn't do that for the Dark Shadow campaign, which was better.
Do you guys remember that in like 5th edition Warhammer 40k, they used to have like, why are these people fighting these people? And you got that in every book. Like, I remember I recently reread the Dark Eldar one. Maybe that was earlier. And it's like, why would the Dark Eldar raid the following? It's just like a list. The Tyranids to get exciting new enemies for the arena. And it's like the Empire because they're alive. And it was like the Necrons because even the most jaded of immortal relishes a challenge. It's like, whoa, dude. And they have it like for the demons as well. Like, why are these people fighting the Grey Knights and so forth? It's really fun. And that's all I have to say about the Tomb Kings, actually.
I have one thing about future prospects of the Tomb Kings, because with the project with the old world that has been teased and is coming, where this will be coming back, I had some, I was a bit worried, I was thinking like, which factions will they focus on? Surely it will be, the old world, so you will have all those factions. But Tomb Kings haven't been supported in quite some time. Will they bring them back? Will they focus more on just the old world? But then, we had this map of the Border Princes, and what did we see in that map?
You mean the thing that Luke said on our podcast 6 episodes ago?
Yes. What did he say?
Well, there are symbols from the Tomb Kings on that map.
Yes, they're tombs, and they're much farther north than I thought. They're in the Border Princes, basically. Which, I mean, probably...
Which is something I've mentioned since we started this podcast, that there's in the books that there have tombs in the Border Princes.
Yeah. So their empire was that big. They were even all the way up there.
It was, I think it was lesser kings that conquered that and that had fealty to etc.
Yeah. But I mean, I think that at least shows hope for Tomb Kings, that they will also be in this new edition.
Yeah. I'm guessing that there will be like different phases. We've got the starter box, and then we get build from there.
More focus on different parts.
Yeah. It will be interesting because there will also be Cathay.
Yes, I mean, since last we recorded, so this maybe should have been in the intro, but it could be a nice little outro. They've now talked about that Cathay is coming and started showing parts of their map.
I'm holding out for Araby, personally.
Well, that would be awesome. Yep.
That's like my favorite part of Warhammer Army Project. Cathay. No, Araby.
Yeah, with their cool... Do they have like elephants that they can ride and stuff?
They have flying carpets.
Oh.
And they have gins.
Yeah.
And all of that is based on old Warhammer and role-playing game stuff.
Yeah, and like the old War Master army. So still weird to me after all these years that they got a War Master army, Araby, and they never did anything with it.
And the Kislev army was quite extensive as well.
Yeah, but I wonder if they learned something from the entire Squat situation. Because the Squats got like a huge epic army. Like a huge one.
But nothing else.
And they squatted epic.
Yeah.
Oh.
But
It's coming back.
I would love to see something like the War Master coming back, but maybe they could do it in the style of a battle in a box.
Yeah.
And have like specific conflicts between different factions instead of a general tabletop game.
Which they can do after they've fully evaluated, evolved, and extensively built on Warhammer 30k.
But that's what the old world is replacing.
Nice try.
We all
say
know
what
that.
you want about Age of Sigmar, but I think Games Workshop actually learned some mistakes on trying to replace stuff with something new.
Oh, but in Age of Sigmar, there are no Tomb Kings.
No.
Not yet.
No, there's the Siren, like...
they
what's
did
the name
the Bone Reapers. Or
the Osiark Bone Reapers are building constructs out of bone.
That's true, but they are sort of Tomb Kings-like.
Yeah, and that army is hilariously unsupported, by the way.
Is it? They didn't know.
No, they got like
updates.
the initial army release, and they've gotten nothing else. The Edonef got way more stuff.
Yeah.
And like, what's the other one? Like, Chris, help me out. Like the Cow Elves.
The Lumineth has got their second.
Yeah, Lumineth.
Yeah, that's true. No Bone Reapers in a long time.
But on the other hand, the Lumineth got their second wave after the first wave of the pandemic, and then the second wave of the pandemic. So,
Osiark Bone Reapers.
They have some pretty cool models, actually.
Yeah,
I mean,
they
have like this
could
huge
go for a screaming skull.
Yeah, the huge Necron Catan-looking thing. That could probably be something useful.
Yeah.
But I'm not a fan of like the basic support, like the basic design of their dudes.
No, they're a bit, I don't know, a bit Japanese, right? In a way.
That's
some weird.
They have weird like kabuki-like helmets, but
yeah, and they are not undead in that sense. They are constructs made out of bone. They're not raised skeletons.
So
these would probably be good if you want to do like Necron conversions, though.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah, they are. They also got a nice catapult that you can use for a terrain piece if you're doing either on the Vampire Counts or Tomb Kings.
And they had like a terrain piece. Oh, I can see it's out of support now. Out of stock. They had like a terrain piece, which was basically a huge undead. It's really cool. I'm looking at it now. It has 4 towers. It's known as the Bone Tide Nexus, and has a central statue which is made of skeletons and 3 heads. And you could say it's like the 3-headed face of death. And just support. You could just remove the head, get like a new head for Anubis or whatever, and just use these 4 pylon towers with inscribes crystals on it, and like the huge piles of bones and treasures. It would be a really cool.
There it is.
It'd be a cool Cambrian terrain piece.
I think you could replace the head with like a brazier or something like that.
Yeah, that would be cool actually. Which I believe is pronounced brazier. No, brazier. It's pronounced brazier, please. No, they also have this. Like, I think one of the skeleton horses could be useful for something. I'm not quite yet.
They were also quite big, right?
Yeah, they're way too big to be used.
But the Endless Spell's got a nice bird you can use.
Carrion, or
anyway, that's all I got to say.
Thank you very much for teaching us about sand.
Just one. If you are playing End Times, they do still have the Arcan the Black, because it's in the Osiark Bone Reaper army, along with other Legion of Nagash.
Yeah, and also, I mean, Cetra got the coolest way out of any character in End Times, because he got defeated by Chaos, and they told him that they would let him join if he followed them, and if in service he would help them reshape the world. And he died saying, "Cetra does not serve; he only rules." And they crushed his entire body, but left his head in the sand, so you could see the failing of his nation.
It's still pretty cool, though.
That's gangsta.
Yeah, that is nice.
That's like where the hood at. I mean, that's good. Put the money on the hood, where the hood at.
Yeah. So I hope all the listeners are now excited, and we will see a lot of Tomb King's armies sprouting up from the sand.
Send us some pictures. I want to see more Tomb King armies.
Yeah, definitely. Parting question: what is your favorite dynasty or city or whatever color scheme? The traditional
Neferata, which is, I think, turquoise. Mm-hmm. For my current army, I'm actually using turquoise for like bespoke command units and her own retinue archery, as well as my BSB and like the converted one we had for the challenge for this month, which finished up. I hope you guys saw that one. I'm using turquoise for those and like red for the rank and file.
Nice, but it's still like the traditional turquoise.
Yeah, I think so.
Red. Yeah.
I saw somebody do like a long time ago yellow striped, like a hornet. That was pretty cool.
Oh, well, purple is kind of cool also. I've seen that done.
Yeah, that's true.
But nice. So any other parting thoughts? Or should we head out?
Get Tomb Kings.
I'm gonna round this off. Yeah, but this has been the Tomb Kings, let's call it extravaganza to be extra fancy at the end here.
Yes.
And I hope you have managed to stay awake for all of this episode. You
Of
poor
course we
listener.
have.
Because I
And
stay
I look
dry.
forward to
You.
the next episode in which
Just
Jimmy
you.
and Niklas break down
Only
all the
you.
rule stuff we got wrong.
I'm pretty confident that we will get an email about 5 minutes after the first person has listened to this episode.
I hope so.
Yeah, we love emails. Oh, speaking of that, I'm going to reply to some emails tonight.
I like it when we get feedback.
Yeah. So this is it for this episode. We'll see you in the next one.
For now.
See you on the flip side.